Hey everybody, welcome back to Escape Reality Star Wars Talk. I did a little fancy, little fade in on that one today. uh, we're a little late, a little late.
We're a little late. We're a little tired. I'm tired
Yeah,
as usual.
yeah. I'm not as tired, but I'm a little bit. We stayed up a little later.
Mm-hmm.
We just hung out last time yesterday.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm your host Caleb.
I'm Seth. I talk Star Wars with this man.
I caught you off guard with that, but that's because I didn't do it the way I normally do it.
Mm-hmm.
I usually do it right away.
Yep.
Let's see. Usually we like to talk about what we've been up to this week that's not Star Wars related first. I have a couple things.
Yeah, go on.
I've been playing Shadowrun, which is like... I've been playing multiple versions of Shadowrun, I should say. Because... So Shadowrun is initially a tabletop series from the 80s that... Oh man, I don't have the book with me. There's some books I've got actually. But it's basically cyberpunk fantasy. Elves, dwarves, orcs all exist in a cybernetic Earth future.
Mm-hmm.
Because this cataclysm event happened in 2012 that basically re-hit the cycle of magic and brought magic back to the world. And dragons. But those you see less often and you don't want to see. Although I have a feeling in the video game I'm currently playing, I think I know who the dragon is.
Are you kidding me?
I was gonna say I'm surprised you didn't bring it up when I started talking about dragon because I was showing him one of the games last night.
I'm of the opinion that I'm like, there's no way
that this guy is not a dragon. So,
but I'm also like, who knows? Maybe he just picked it to make it sound like he is.
Because so I've been playing a couple of the games. I initially started playing Shadowrun Returns, which is the first game in the newest trilogy, which was made by it was kickstarted, and it's like it's very much like your traditional CRPG with a little bit of turn-based combat using an action point system. Sort of the tactical XCOM style combat, but I guess closer to Yeah, it's more like that because it's got a grid system, but it's also Fallout 1 and 2 with the action point economy to decide your actions, right? And so that's been fun, but then I was like, well, you know what? I want to check out some of the older titles because there are many Shadowrun games. In fact, more Shadowrun games. Well, just about as many Shadowrun games as there are editions of the tabletop edition version. Although I've heard none of those are good, mainly because the hacking system, aka the Matrix, and going into that, and it's a whole mess no matter what version you'd play. And a lot of people say that the newest version, 6th edition, is the worst. And that second edition is apparently the best, but even then you kind of want to not have people play as hackers in your hacking cyberpunk game. But apparently we'll talk about that when we talk about what you've been up to this week, because you have a similar story. So I've been playing the SNES version of Shadowrun, which is the very first video game version of Shadowrun, which it gets complicated, because if I say Shadowrun the video game, there are three. There are actually four Shadowrun the video games. Because there's the SNES version, the Genesis version, the Mega CD, aka the Sega CD, but the Japanese version. There's no English translation for that game.
How good's your Japanese, Caleb?
Not great, which sucks because I want to try it. Apparently there's some fan translation attempts, but nobody's finished one. As is traditional with a lot of these older games where they don't get ported to anywhere else. Fan translations tend to exist. It's like a visual novel for that one. And then the last one is just a shooter that's impossible to play. It was a Microsoft shooter that was similar to CSGO. There's no campaign, though, so it's like it was just an online game, CSGO style, where you picked either as a human, orc, or elf, or whatever you wanted to play as, and then you just ran in, bought your weapons in the CSGO style, where you have your little shop, the Counter-Strike shop, where you pick your guns and you spend money and then fight, right? That was essentially that version. That version no longer exists, but that's okay. That one didn't have a story and also wasn't considered canon, because they changed some of the timeline of how they got to that point in their version of Shadowrun. So because they changed the timeline, the owners of the tabletop system are like, yeah, that one's not canon. The SNES version is canon, actually. The SNES one is actually, in fact, it is so canon that the character that you play as in the SNES version appears as an NPC in Shadowrun Returns. And I actually showed you that in the Discord. I was like, here's the side-by-side of them. I think I showed the SNES version first, and then I showed the Shadowrun Returns version. Very similar images, blonde guy with shades. But the SNES one's fun. No, I'm pretty sure I know who the dragon is in that one. He has a name that makes it pretty obvious. Spoilers for a game from the 80s. His name is Drake. I wonder who the dragon is. He also wants to kill our guy because our main character Jake versus Drake. Jake stole some stuff from him.
Yep.
For a heist, because in Shadowrun you play as Shadowrunners. In any version of Shadowrun, you play as the Shadowrunners, except for obviously the shooter one. You play as Shadowrunners who do heists and stuff, and and it's like a heist. It's very much a heist tabletop game, because you play as guys that basically work for corporations doing corporate espionage, essentially. And whether that's a physical heist or a matrix heist, you are going to be doing heist. And usually it's a classless system traditionally. But there are like class types you can do. Like you can be a decker, which are your hackers. You can be a samurai, which is more of your melee-based tank person, usually your fighter. That's usually taking the front. That's actually what I'm doing in Shadowrun Returns. I'm playing as a samurai and I'm going melee build focus on that one. Can't do a melee build really in SNES because you got to find a gun, which that was a pain because SNES is also, the SNES one is an RPG, but it's also an adventure point-and-click game. Because you have to solve puzzles, find things, have the right objects to complete things. We actually learned some stuff last night, because I was hanging out with you last night, and I was like, here's this game that, like, I think you'll be interested at least in the setting, if not the video game itself. And so I was like...
I remember before you showed it to me, I explained, I heard it was a tabletop game. I know the general idea of it.
Yeah, because it's and I feel like it's up your alley very much. Like, you like that you like the cyberpunk corporate, like, down with the man sort of deal, which is what Shadowrun also kind of is. And it's like the Blade Runner,
it's funny
the Blade Runner.
I work in retail.
But the Blade Runner aesthetic, right?
Yeah.
It's the Blade Runner aesthetic. And so, like, you like that
I'm
neo...
just a sucker for neo-noir
Yeah.
cyber settings.
And, like, they're fun settings.
Yeah.
And so...
I'm like, I need bad shit to happen to the characters and to figure...
And so, like, I was like, this is up your alley. And so I played some of the game.
Yeah.
And, like, the story is interesting, but obviously the gameplay, it depends on your, like, how you feel about that type of classic gameplay. And it's a little bit harder because it is a controller game. Because it's for the SNES. Whereas I feel like the SNES version of Shadowrun would be perfect on it as a PC game. I'm also upset that I had to... I tried to actually support that game, but there is no... You would think a game as classic as that would be one of the games that, like, Nintendo would put on their Switch for, like, their options of games, like if you pay for their, you know, their online program, because, you know, if you pay for online, you get certain games, right, for emulation. Not one of their games for the SNES. I feel like that would be a perfect game to add to that collection. We should start I've seen a petition, actually. I was going to say we should start a petition for that, but I saw one. It doesn't have a lot of signatures. Unfortunately. And that'd be 2 games they could add, because there's a Genesis game, too. And the Nintendo Online also does Genesis games. So that'd be 2 Shadowrun games you could have now. But I haven't touched the Genesis one yet. I'm going in chronological order, which it's weird. The Genesis one actually takes place after the newest games.
Okay.
Even though it came out, obviously, way before the newest games. Because the general consensus of when the timeline is 2050s is generally when a lot of stuff takes place. And then the modern tabletop setting is the 2060s. Like, they've moved forward to almost 2070s. Like, because obviously a lot of tabletop games, when they do new editions, they advance the clock. So, like, it's like how in 5th edition for D&D, you're in the 1400s DR for Forgotten Realms setting, I should say, specifically, because there are multiple settings in D&D. For the Forgotten Realms setting, which is the main setting 5th edition uses, it's the 1400s DR, but if you go back to, like, 2nd edition, it's the 1200s DR, which is when Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 takes place, for example, and then Baldur's Gate 3 is in the 1400s, almost 1500s. So, because it's like 1494 or 95 in Baldur's Gate 3. But yeah, speaking of tabletop games, though, and weird hacking in tabletop format, you ran a game 2 days ago for the first time.
So, I remember. So this all started,
and we've talked about it on the show that you planning this. So it's not a surprise to anybody who's been watching. But for new viewers, I'll let him explain.
So, I have some friends that like Cyberpunk a lot.
Mainly because 2077 is a legitimately good game.
Yeah,
and the anime is also really good.
I will eventually play Cyberpunk 2077.
It's just you do not have a console that can play all of Cyberpunk 2077, just the base game.
And I am, ideally, if everything goes well...
Oh, you're going to get a PS5?
No.
Oh.
The fuck am I going to get a money for a PS5 from?
Well, ideally.
No. I'm just going to get the base game and go play through that.
Oh, okay.
Because that's slightly more reasonable.
No Phantom Liberty? Got it.
No Phantom Liberty. But because they're like, hey, this is kind of fun, I'm like, well, you know it's based on a tabletop game, right? And they're like, really? And I go, yeah. Y'all want me to set up a one-shot or something? And so for like the past, 3 weeks?
Yeah, something like that. For the past month or so.
For about the past month, I've been going and looking through and reading through everything involved in that. And so when I got to the hacking bit, because there, of course, there's hacking
it's a cyberpunk game.
Cyberpunk setting. Me and Steve, who plays as a netrunner, realized, oh no. Here's all the stuff that he needs, and here's all of the shit that I have to do, and it's an absurd amount for both of us, and we're just like, that might slow down how the game works a lot. So what we're going to do is reorganize and throw out most of this. It's all skill checks now.
Yeah.
And that worked out pretty good. I'm for the most part. And so come to time to play the actual game, I'm like, all right, here's the setup. You guys need to go and steal a car. But of course, it's not just going to be a regular car.
You wouldn't steal a car.
Yeah, they fucking would.
No, but I'm doing
I know.
the piracies.
You wouldn't steal a car, would you? looks at Cosmo, Old Boy, Core, and Zero, and they all respond with, yes, we fucking would. So, the car is designed to be resistant to EMPs,
Okay.
which is very useful, considering.
Considering the setting they're in, yeah. That's, yeah.
And is disguised to look like just the most average-looking car to ever exist, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And so, motherfucker.
But this is for...
I know.
Then don't react to it, just go.
And so, so I'm like, all right, here's the plan. Here's what y'all need to do. Come up with a plan, right? And the plan is, all right, so we know that they're going to meet up at the waterfront. And I'm like, okay, you guys understand that there might be some people around, so you'll need to stop the car and get it before that happens. And they're like, okay. So, Steve, they all come up with a plan. The plan is...
What's the plan, Dutch?
The plan is, get the car to stop, shoot out the tire, grab the corporate that's inside, get the blueprints for the EMP car from him, and take the car as well. Good news, the plan goes off for the most part without a hitch.
Until we get to getting the blueprints.
Oh no. See, they go, so everything goes well. And we're like, well, they're like, well, we're gonna have to kill the corpo that's in there, because we can't have him knowing what we're doing.
Yeah, you can't go blabbing about.
Yeah. So they go, and Chris's character, who is a solo, this game's version of like an assassin or a hitman, he's pretty cybered up. And by that I mean, like, bro's basically got the muscle skeleton. So his solution for how we get this guy, how we eliminate him, is he just smashes his fist through the side of the window car and just snaps his neck and puts him in the trunk.
Oh my god.
And it's like, alright. And so, meanwhile, while he's doing that, Steve has to interface with the car to make sure, because it's essentially supposed to be self-driving. But, they don't have the codes for it.
Oh, so this is where the hacking comes in.
Yeah.
Got it.
And so Steve is like, okay, I'm like, alright, it's gonna take you a minute to do that. Meanwhile, Cosmo has to change the tire on the car. All of this goes down.
Wait, so they're pulling some NASCAR level, like, we gotta be...
Yeah, I'm like, you guys have 4 minutes to figure this shit out.
He's going...
And this
Meanwhile, Steve's going...
This was the plan they came up with. And this fucking worked. And so they're like, okay, well, so they hand Cosmo, Sky's character, who is the fixer of the group, so the person who goes, sets up jobs, and gets like payment for them.
Yeah, I know
they're
what
like,
a fixer is.
Alright, cool.
They use the same term in Shadowrun.
Yeah.
So.
Because corporate's got a corporate.
Yeah.
And so it's like, alright, I'm like, hey, did you guys tell Old Boy, the other sniper that you hired, what you were doing? And I'm like, and they go, well, we did tell him we were going to meet up later. And I'm like, did you tell him about the fact that you have a plan where Sky's going by himself to collect the payment? And they go, no. I'm like, alright. So as Sky's on the way there, I'm like, Sky, I need you to flip a coin for me real quick.
Ah, some 50-50 odds.
Yeah. Sky is a lucky man, because that coin ended up on heads.
Oh, good.
So the sniper that they've hired to take the shot follows him, and it's a good thing too, because Sky's character is the fixer. They're not typically meant for combat,
Mm-hmm.
and Sky almost gets killed because he didn't think to bring backup with him just in case. Because it's Night City, and
Yeah.
they're working for some shady people.
Let's go to a meeting where we're gonna get paid, but with no backup.
Mm-hmm.
That always works out in a heist film, no matter whether it's cyberpunk or modern.
Yeah. I'm like, it's a good time to teach this lesson to Sky. Who, I like how everyone operates on the understanding that Night City is a city place to be for everyone. And this is one of those things where, I don't know, maybe I'm being a bit of a jerk as a referee.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the term the game uses for DM.
Oh, okay.
But I'm like, here's the lesson. I'm like,
To be fair, we talked about that you're kind of strict.
essentially with me, it's very much a don't be sloppy
Yeah.
with coming up with a plan. Coming up with a plan, covering up evidence, that kind of thing. They get pretty far, except as they're like, okay, we need a place to stash the car. I'm like, all right, so you guys made sure you weren't followed. And I'm like, okay, so you're gonna go talk with Suds Juliet, this like former rocker boy who they hang out with. A place called the Slammer. The Slammer is neutral territory for a lot of people. It's a dive bar.
Yeah.
And so as they go in, they're like, hey, Suds, we need to stash this car. And Suds is like, all right, that's fine. Go put it on like the little park. Go put it in the parking garage that I own. I'll have a person there to look after everything. So they go in, and there's just a guy in overalls there. I'm like, this is just a mechanic. And I'm like,
He's just a guy.
He's just a dude. He's not. He's literally no one important. And I'm like, okay, so you guys did remember to take the body out of the car and dump it, right? And they're like, no.
It's like, wait, we had to do that?
I'm like, and I thought about it, I'm like, he's a mechanic. I'm like, he doesn't need to go into the trunk for anything, so I guess you guys are fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't worry about that.
Don't worry about it. Yeah.
And I'm like, so you guys have stolen from Biotechnica, Militech, and have essentially double-crossed the Purple Dragons.
Oh, great.
The good news is, because you guys planned this out, and this was supposed to be a covert meeting that nobody knew about, nobody knows about this so far.
Nobody knows, like, you were involved, yeah.
Yeah. They know that it happened, or at least that their car has gone missing alongside the blueprints.
They just don't know who.
Yeah. Steve did another smart thing on accident. Getting the blueprints. I'm like, oh, they're on a thumb drive, a little data file. And Steve's like, just to be sure and see if I can have, like, the file on my personal record.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay. And he's like, I should probably check to make sure that it doesn't have, like, a security system on it or anything. I'm like, you smart motherfucker. Because once it's accessed, it's like, hey, if you're not the person who it's supposed to be, it just deletes itself.
Oh.
But because he went through the time to figure that out and examine it a little bit more, I'm like, I'll give it to him.
Yeah.
So now they have a copy of the blueprints and the prototype car. They're not sure if it works. But they have it.
Okay.
So overall, pretty good job.
A+ all around.
Mm-hmm.
And so, wow. So that was it pretty much for this week.
Pretty much. I've been playing some more Elden Ring. I now have to go and search through all the locations for the scatter tree fragments. I don't need to. Like, I can finish off the final.
Yeah. This is just
final boss.
100%ing essentially.
Oh no, I just want to make sure that I'm like right where I need to be.
Oh, okay. I gotcha.
Unfortunately, this is causing me to revisit areas that I have visited before to make sure that I cleared them out properly.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them I'm like, how did I miss this, or why am I... And it's like, this was 3 feet over there.
Wow.
If I had looked to my left, and I'm like, why didn't I look to my left? Oh, right, I was fighting this guy.
Well then. Well, with that, let's go ahead and get into some news, because we do have a couple pieces of Star Wars news this week. First one, not as big as the second one. First one, though, is fun. It's a book. It's books. We're getting more books. Woohoo!
Books are nice.
We are getting a new book from Alexander Freed, which will be the start of a trilogy. That's about the early days of the Empire. Called The Mask of Fear. And it will be part of the Reign of the Empire trilogy. Let me see if I can pull it up. It's trying to pull up the article. It's acting up now that I need it. But essentially it's going to be some of the early days. Freed is only writing the first book. He has written a lot of the Old Republic novels that are from Legends. He has also written, for canon, he wrote I believe the first battle. Yeah, he wrote Twilight Company, the Battlefront book for that. And then I believe he wrote the Alphabet Squadron trilogy. So the X-Wing trilogy for that. Or Fighter trilogy, because they weren't all X-Wings. Kind of, so, you know, he's a detailed author. He does a lot of detailed stuff. For some reason it's being real funky. Yeah. Let me see if I can pull up the article on my phone then, since it's... Sorry guys, we're having some technical difficulties on the computer end. But I mean, with what we know, though, what are you? This is kind of this is like the early days. It's supposed to be like the start of the Empire, essentially, like within the first year, with the focus on, I believe, Mon Mothma for this one.
Okay.
And so it'll be around that early Andor, like season 1 period, right? Because Andor season 1 was kind of early in the a few years into the Empire, so it's a little bit before that, from what I understand. Yeah, so the next 2 books will be written by Rebecca Roanhorse, who wrote the Resistance Reborn book, and Fran Wild, who wrote some short story From a Certain Point of View. And so Reign of the Empire is going to be in... Mask of Fear will be in 2025.
Okay.
So in February of 25th, actually, they gave a full date. So they gave us the full... This is when it's coming out. And then the follow-up books will be 2026 and 2027, respectively.
Okay.
So they're really spacing them out, making sure that they aren't rushing that trilogy, right?
Yeah.
And so according to the article, the first book will be about Mon Mothma. Second one will focus on Bail Organa. It actually doesn't say specifically. It just says the whole trilogy will focus on Mon Mothma, Bail Organa, Saw Gerrera, and other original characters. So, yeah, it's really giving that Andor vibes from the sound of it. Like, they're really trying to get us excited for more of that type of era of the Empire, which we don't have a lot of in canon. So, like, that... While I know you're not a fan of going back, at least they're filling in gaps where there are gaps, and not just whatever, right?
Yeah.
And so the official synopsis that we got from Gizmodo is: before the rebellion, the Empire reigned. In order to ensure the security and continuing stability, the Republic will be reorganized into the First Galactic Empire for a safe and secure society. With one speech and thunderous applause, Chancellor Palpatine brought the era of the Republic crashing down. In its place rose the Galactic Empire. Across the galaxy, people rejoiced and celebrated the end to war and the promise of tomorrow. But that tomorrow was a lie. Instead, the galaxy became twisted by the cruelty and fear of the Emperor's rule. During that terrifying first year of tyranny, Mon Mothma, Saw Gerrera, and Bail Organa faced the encroaching darkness. One day, they will be 3 architects of the Rebel Alliance. But first, each must find purpose and direction in a changing galaxy, while harboring their own secrets, fears, and hopes for a future that may never come unless they act. And so, yeah. So, it definitely sounds like... Yeah, this is like the first year of the Empire then. So, closer to Bad Batch timeline then. Because Bad Batch is that first few years, like first couple years. Whereas Andor's like 5 years later, I believe, into the Empire. Something like that. Or no, 5 years off from A New Hope. Sorry. So it's a few years into the Empire. It's 18, 17, 14 years into the Empire. Because it's 19 years after when A New Hope starts that the Empire's been around. Because Luke is 19. Luke and Leia are 19. So that's how you know. According to the interview that Random House's editor Tom Hullier, they're actually comparing it to House of the Dragon Season 1 with some time jumps a little bit in the second and third book. So first book is going to kind of cover that, probably that first year, and maybe have a couple time jumps, and then second and third are absolutely going to jump forward a bit. So so it'll be very House of the Dragon is what they're saying. And I kind of like that vibe, honestly, for Star Wars. Obviously, like the political intrigue part. That's what I assume they're talking about. I think they're going for that political intrigue. Not obviously the rest of what House of the Dragon can be like. The violence, I'm not expecting the violence or the sexual nature of House of the Dragon. I'm expecting.
Sorry, it took me a second to catch up to that.
I'm expecting political intrigue, right?
Yeah.
And in fact, Alexander Freed, who was asked and talked about it, said, "I'm enormously excited to be a part of this project and explore an era of Star Wars, especially rich with the nuanced stories of ordinary citizens, people living inside the machinery of the Empire, still figuring out what's happening to their government, and in violent disagreement over ideas of democracy, resistance, revolution, and complicity. It's a chance to write a political thriller and spy drama and sweeping historical epic all at once, as well as spotlight Mon Mothma, a character I've been passionate about for ages. I can only hope the end result does justice to the grand themes of the prequel films and manages a similar blend of timelessness and relevance." So and this was announced at San Diego Comic-Con because, we got a lot of stuff there that we talked about last week. But this was one of the things that was revealed after our episode had aired. And obviously there was still one more day of San Diego Comic-Con before. And so apparently it's already up for pre-orders though. So if you like it and you want to pre-order it, cool. Show some support because sounds interesting. I did fix our issue, so let me see if I can. Because for the next piece of Star Wars news, we have pictures that I want to make sure we can show off. Because the next piece of Star Wars news is actually about Skeleton Crew, where we got some announcements. We first off got a... Hey, Pixie. Sorry.
Hello.
I don't know how long you've been there, but hey. I guess she just popped in. Cool. I wasn't ignoring her. But we got... So they announced some news. They did an article with People magazine talking about the show. And we now have a official starting date. December 3rd is when the show is going to start airing. So we'll get our... Probably, if I had to guess, and we go by the Disney Plus rule of thumb of how they release episodes, probably the first 2 episodes. Because that's how they tend to do the live-action shows. Right? Mm-hmm. Thanks for the lurk, by the way, Pixie.
It's appreciated.
But yeah, I assume we'll probably get the first 2 episodes. And so they gave us a little bit more of a synopsis. Skeleton Crew tells the story of 4 kids who find themselves lost in the vastness of the galaxy, trying to find their way home. We got some behind the scenes we get a full look at one of the alien characters with the CGI completely put in. I'll go ahead and see if I can post that on the screen now. not showing.
No.
Hold on. Here we go. We're gonna that. This is from Star Wars Newsnet, but so we got Neil in the background, which obviously look at him, he's so cute. We've already got awesome characters that we're seeing, but yeah, so Alien Neil, the little Max Rebo looking.
I keep wanting to call them Ortolans, but that's not.
I think that is.
Is it?
I think that is right. I think it's Ortolans.
I only remember because for some reason my brain's like Ortolans, elephants, Ortolan elephant.
Yeah, you're right. It's an Ortolan. And so, yeah, we got our little Ortolan guy, and we see the rest of the kids along with Jude Law's character.
So over on the far, what for the viewers would be the left, I think, that is 100%.
Oh.
You lost the map, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, far right for the viewer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so then we also got some of the kids wearing riding some bikes. We get a couple more of them with the bikes. Apparently, Jude Law is high in his praise of his young co-actors, calling them great fun and incredibly professional. So that's fun to see, hyping up these new young actors, right? It's being showran by John Watts, who did he's done the Spider-Man Home trilogy directing, and so that I think that's kind of the right choice from what we understand, this is kind of a coming of age type story. A lot of the pictures give people vibes of, and you'll see, it gives vibes of like Stranger Things, but in Star Wars. It's gonna make sense in a second. So we get more of our little cute Orlin Neil, along with their buddies, and it looks like they're working on a droid, maybe?
It's like a med unit.
Or, yeah. Let's see, what was this quote for? Oh, for the bikes. Showrunner John Watts spoke on how the kids reacted. In reality, it looks completely insane, and for the kids, the main direction was stop smiling because they were having so much fun.
How dare you have fun right now?
But no. It sounds like it was in good fun. And then, yeah, I was right. That's Nick Frost. He's going to be playing a droid called SM-33. He's like a rusty, old, cranky droid that sort of reluctantly helps the kids along the way. The other thing about him is that he's the first mate of a mysterious ship. So we got a mystery. So, yeah, we're hitting Stranger... I mean, look at them. That's...
Yeah.
You can't tell me that's not from Stranger Things. They've got their bikes, and they got their walkie-talkies.
This may surprise you, but children used to go outside. Which is...
So, like, it's giving Stranger Things but Star Wars vibes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of excited about that. Because that seems like a cool concept. That seems like a good concept for Star Wars. See, according to Star Wars Newsnet, while the series is classically Star Wars, the showrunners have high hopes that it will draw in a new generation of younger fans. John Watts said in the People magazine article, "You don't have to know everything about Star Wars to enjoy the show. You can come into it completely fresh and enjoy the story, but if you do happen to be a Star Wars superfan, there's a lot for you." So, that sounds exciting. I mean, it sounds like they're aiming for a younger generation on this, but it's also for all fans, which is really what Star Wars kind of always is. It's for the kids, but if you are a long-running fan, you should be able to enjoy it still, right? It's being showrun by John Watts and the writer Christopher Ford. Like I said, John Watts did Spider-Man, the recent Spider-Man trilogy. He's directed some of the episodes according to this article, so has Bryce Dallas Howard, which makes sense because she's kind of in that Lucasfilm directing family now, especially after directing some episodes of The Mandalorian. That would be Ron Howard's daughter.
Okay.
You might know her as an actor for Jurassic World. She's the one that Chris Pratt has the relationship with. She's the
It's an odd pull for me to know, but
the park director. Yeah. It's one of her more famous roles, so I feel like. But she's also a really good director, as we've seen with the Mandalorian episodes that she's directed. A lot of fans actually really want her to direct a movie, So I think that would be interesting if they ever pulled that. We also got Lee Isaac Chung, who I don't know off the top of my head, but I can. A few of these other ones I don't really know much about without having to pull up IMDb pages. Like, I probably know their work, and I just don't know it. David Lowery, the Daniels, Daniel Kwan, and Daniel Scheinert. I guess they work together often because if they're called the Daniels. And then Jake Schreier. So, a lot to look forward to with this show. And it's coming pretty. I mean, it's later this year, but I mean, that's right around the corner, it feels like. The further we get in, I mean, it's already August.
Yeah.
So
I saw that we had like put Halloween decorations out at the store, and I was like, October's like 2 months away. What the hell is everyone do? Oh wait, never mind. It's August. It's a month away.
well,
It's a month.
well,
The days, but
because September's still, and then yeah. But yeah, I mean, and then September is usually when people really start decorating. But no, Costco was already doing it in June. They were already putting stuff out, from what I know.
Like, I know what your game is.
Gotta have the
America.
We gotta have the spooky season.
It can wait though. Let summer have its time.
Spooky season never has its time. Everybody thinks about Christmas immediately.
Because people keep rushing things.
But no.
If they quit rushing things, things would be fine.
But yeah, so that's it for news. I'm really excited about both of these things. I'm excited to see Skeleton Crew and see what we've got, because that's a new show with new characters, something new, right? And it's going forward-ish. It's still before the sequel trilogy, but it's going forward in the Mandalorian era, right? It's in that Mandalorian era of Star Wars, so that in between 6 and 7, but like a few years after 6, and not closer to 6, further from 7. And then excited about Reign of the Empire, because it seems like an interesting idea for a trilogy of books. Perfect for books. I don't know. I mean, Andor showed that I guess you can do a political thriller for a show, but even that got hate for some reason, even though I thought it was great. And a lot of people will agree. Let's get into our main topic for today. Let's talk about Clone Wars Season 2. Spoilers for a show that's been out for a very long time.
Yep.
We're going to talk about the full second season. We'll I guess we'll do what we did last week. Or, yeah,
Just
last
jump
week with
around
Season
and
1.
talk about things.
Well, we'll jump around and talk about things, but we'll also try to go through, like, the main, like, points, right? Through, like, each arc, kind of, because we kind of did an overview of the arcs. We kind of just were like, here's this arc.
Yeah.
So, this time I wrote a list of which episodes are which arc.
Okay.
So that way, and that's why I did that in the Discord, because I was like, okay, this episode is this arc, this episode's this arc, this episode's actually a flashback episode, this episode's a flash forward episode. Because we do actually get one that actually doesn't take place at when the rest of Season 2 happens. First set of episodes, we immediately get follow-up with more Cad Bane. We get the Cad Bane Holocron heist episodes, which take place before the Season 1 finale, actually. So this is actually when they meet Cad Bane the first time, I believe.
Yeah.
No. It is hold on. It might be after, and then there's some episodes that happen before the Senator heist that are in Season 3. I think that's what it is. Okay, either way, the timeline is already getting funky again for Clone Wars. But we get more Cad Bane right off the bat. We get Cad Bane being hired by Palpatine, break into the Jedi Temple, and to steal a holocron that has the information about all the Force-sensitive babies out there.
Yep.
That the Jedi plan to recruit eventually, but are for now going, they don't need to be taken right yet.
Yeah.
Like, they're like, they can stay with their parents a little longer. Or if they just go, well, maybe they'll stay with their parents entirely, and because they still keep a record even if they're not going to take the kid. Once again, proving that Jedi don't kidnap babies, by the way. They do make sure that the parents consent and everything is all worked out. To anybody who misunderstands how Jedi do things. They do not kidnap. they ask permission, they make it very, and oftentimes the parents are very fine with it because they're like, I don't know how to deal with a force sensitive baby. How do I deal with this? My babies be throwing their toys with the force. How am I supposed to parent that? Basically, send them off to a private school where it's basically like when you go to like, it's sort of similar to like X-Men.
Mm.
You go to the X Mansion and you go to a special school that's
Xavier School for Gifted Children.
Yeah, you go to Xavier School for Gifted Children because the parents are like, I don't know how to deal with this mutant kid.
Mm.
I love my kid, but I don't know how to deal with that. Or if you're Bobby's parents, they don't love their son, but you know that's a whole
thing.
That's a different podcast that we don't make.
Yep. I do like how...
But Bane, on the other hand, is like, I'll kidnap some babies.
I will gladly kidnap children, said Bane.
For the right price.
Although it seems kind of small time for you.
Yeah, Palpatine's like, hey, I want you to... Now that you have the list, I want you to kidnap those babies that are on the list. He's like, I mean, I'll do it for the right price. I'm surprised that you want something so minor. He's like, nah, this is big because these are some force-sensitive babies.
It's like, alright, I guess.
Showing that Palpatine and Bane are really bad people.
Yeah.
We really understand how evil Cad Bane is because of that. He's like, I have no problem with this.
For as much of a dangerous bounty hunter as he is, I think his main crime is stealing force-sensitive children.
I really like how the episodes play out, though. I actually like... Second season's pretty good with their arcs. I think their arc episodes are really good. I like the... So, for Holocron Heist, I really like the... I like Cad Bane faking his death at the end of the first episode. Or second episode. Yeah, second episode. Because it's first episode, he steals... They steal the Holocron along with a shapeshifter. Which apparently... Claudites can shapeshift their clothes too. That's the big thing I noticed.
I'm like, yeah, that's new.
That's the big thing I noticed in that show, and I was like, because the shapeshifter they approach Ahsoka as Jocasta Nu, and they're like in Jocasta Nu's clothes, and I'm like, wait, did they steal Jocasta Nu's clothes? Because I'd forgotten.
Yeah.
Because it's been a long time since I've like sat down and paid attention, right? Rather than just play it in the background, because you know, I sometimes I'll just play Star Wars in the background of whatever I'm doing, and so like it's been a minute since I sat there and focused on the episode, and then I saw that, and then they shapeshift back into themselves after Ahsoka catches them, and I'm like, wait, wait, they shapeshifted their clothes too. Hold on.
Yeah.
So I guess that's canon. That's canon now.
I'm like, sure. I mean, I just figured it was like a advanced hologram tech, but I was like, wait, but that, or like,
because that's not how because Claudites are shapeshifters.
Yeah. And I was, and I thought about it a little bit more, and I was like, you know what? It's a children's show. I'm not gonna question it.
But then episode 2, they chase Bane because he can't use the holocron without the Jedi crystal that goes with it, and the Jedi crystal that goes with it needs to be activated by a Jedi.
Yep.
Or by somebody who can use the Force. Well, a Jedi, because otherwise they could just bring it to Dooku or Sidious.
Yeah. So Bane's like,
well, I'm killing the Jedi that I should have done it to, but hey, I got 2 more Jedi on the way to come to make my job easier.
So yeah, I got a plan.
And so
Arthur.
Yeah. So he tortures Ahsoka to get Anakin to do it.
Yeah. And of course, Anakin does it because Anakin cares
too much.
Once
again, showing his. I mean,
good person, bad Jedi.
Yeah, and I'd say also it's just like this is a case of, I think Ahsoka would have been willing to be like, no, like this is for the greater good, bad situation, but also they're like, it's whatever. And then they think they lost, and then before that, Cad Bane had set up because he was given a battle cruiser from the Separatists, because Palpatine, I guess, paid Dooku paid for, Palpatine paid for it, and was like, here, give him a ship. And meanwhile, Newt Gunray's like, "You're gonna blow up my ship." He's like, "Yeah, but you'll get paid for it once I get paid.
Yeah.
So shut up."
Shut up.
Because Newt Gunray always be crying. I think though the big thing about the Holocron Heist arc is that it's to show something that we talked about with season 1, which is that the villains need to be a threat, and so the villains need wins, otherwise they stop being threats. And so, like, obviously, Newt Gunray losing, not a big deal. Newt Gunray's always been a coward, and so it's like, Newt Gunray's never gonna be a threat. Grievous losing is okay as long as it doesn't happen too much, but season 1 was starting to have him lose a little too much.
Yeah.
Same thing with Ventress. Ventress should be a threat. Ventress was starting to lose a little too much in season 1. So now we bring Cad Bane in to get some fresh blood and get some wins for the bad guys and create a new threat, right? So Cad Bane is now the new guy in town who's going to be our... If Cad Bane shows up, our heroes are probably going to lose.
Yeah.
Or at least have a higher chance of losing. And so... Because he wins all 2 out of 3 episodes.
He succeeds pretty hard.
Like, or if we count season 1, he wins 3 out of 4 episodes that we've seen him in.
Yeah.
Because he frees Zero in the finale of season 1. Episode 1 of season 2, he straight up steals the holocron successfully and throws the Jedi for a loop because they think that he's going into their battle plans room.
Yep.
They think that the holocron thing is a red herring. And it's like, no, that's the real plan. The red herring is the battle plans.
Yep.
Is the war room. And then episode 2, he wins again by faking his death and getting the holocron opened. And then episode 3, he loses because we've got to finally have the heroes get a win in season 2.
My God.
And not by much.
Yeah.
Like, because he gets away scot-free. He actually kicks Obi-Wan and Mace's ass a bit because he's like, because they're like, all right, tell us where the babies are, and he's like, all right, I'll take you to my operations base.
Yep.
And it's a trap, obviously, and even Obi-Wan and Mace are like, it's a trap, but then they still fall for it.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Anakin and Ahsoka get the win by tracking his gas fuel, essentially. They look at his gas fuel tanks, which, by the way, anybody who complains about gas in Star Wars because of The Last Jedi, it was done already. Gas and fuel are important parts of Star Wars for a long time. They look at his fuel records and go, well, he's driven this far, and based on that means that, and he wiped out his coordinates, but we can kind of guess where he went based on where his fuel reserves show. And so they figure out that the babies were sent to Mustafar, where Palpatine is doing secret evil baby experiments on them. Probably trying to, like, precursor to, like, Inquisitors.
Yeah.
If like we were to like take a guess of what he's trying to do, he's trying to set up probably an Inquisitor sort of situation where he raises them from evil Jedi, raise them from birth as dark side Force users, but not as Sith, because we already have 2 Sith. And while Palpatine and Dooku loosely play with having dark side like assassins, they never really make them Sith. Similar to the conversation we had about the Acolyte, where it's like there's always going to be 2, but they will hire other people that are dark side Force users.
I like to
it's
call,
a loophole.
It's a fucking loophole that they have to justify to themselves.
But also, they're not Sith still, because Sith is a religion, and they don't make them they don't bring them into the religion. The dark side is a philosophy. Sith is a religion that uses that philosophy, right?
They're, at the moment, potential converts.
Yeah.
Is a nice way of describing it.
It's like when you go to your it's like if you're a Pentecostal and you go to your Baptist friend, you're like, hey, you wanna switch?
Just church switch for a couple of weeks.
Well, no, it's like you want to become a Pentecostal instead of be Baptist, or be Catholic, I guess, depending on, So it's like it's same fundamental agreement on the basic concepts, right? But then it's the core tenets that change, right? And so it's like that's how I kind of view like being a assassin or a Sith, or being a and then the Force as a whole is like an entire like bigger concept, even bigger, more grand concept that can be viewed as different by each religion.
Yeah.
But yeah, that Holocron Heist, fun, good start. It's a good start to the season.
Yeah.
Then we get. So, a lot of people don't count this episode as part of the arc, but I count episode 4 as part of the arc, because it sets up the arc. Like, it's literally like, hey, here's, like, the plans to the new factory that we're gonna spend an entire 2 more episodes focusing around, and then we're gonna have two more episodes that still focus on Geonosis, but only tangentially. Because the brainworms.
Yep.
I count the second battle Geonosis and the brainworms arc as one arc, because it's all kind of like, it's all related. Like, it's all like, without the second battle Geonosis, you don't get the brainworms.
Yeah.
And then you have to count episode 4, the Senate spy, because that's how you get to the second battle of Geonosis. Because, what's his name? Ex-boyfriend.
I was gonna say Wat Tambor, but he's not involved in this.
No, Wat Tambor's not involved in this one. Why can't I remember his name all of a sudden? I don't like him.
It's not Emilio Clark. I don't know who that is.
Emilio?
Emilio Clark.
Amelia Clark is the actress from Game of Thrones.
No.
That's Daenerys Targaryen.
No, not Amelia. Emilio.
Oh, well, I guess that's like,
I
if
don't
Amelia...
know who that is.
That's nobody. That person doesn't exist.
I've made them
You made a gender swapped Amelia Clark.
Rush Clovis.
Yeah, Clovis.
That's his name.
Yeah, Clovis. Which,
I don't know how I got there from.
that is nowhere. But yeah, Clovis. I count the spy arc as part of it, personally. Because Clovis has the deal with making the factory.
Yes.
So yeah, we meet Rush Clovis in the first episode of that arc, who appears again much later. We don't get a lot of Rush Clovis until later. We also get the hints though of Anakin being a terrible husband, because he does not like. And it's also my problem with this episode is how it justifies Anakin. Because it makes him right. And I don't like that. Because Padme's smarter than this. Than the way this episode writes her. Because they're like... Because Padme, one, gets most of the job done. Right? She's like, hey, Anakin, you need to trust me. Let me do my job. I've done this type of stuff before. And she's right. Padme Amidala knows how to spy. She knows how to do that and how to convince people to give her what she needs, right? And she also knows how to keep Rush at a distance without Anakin's help. But Anakin keeps not... The problem is he doesn't... I get that he doesn't trust Rush, but he should trust Padme, right? And that's the problem with the relationship, is that he needs to let Padme have initiative of her own to do this, right? Honestly, I think Anakin should not have been assigned to this mission whatsoever.
Yeah.
Honestly, if Obi-Wan had been assigned to this mission, probably would have been better.
Yeah, but Obi-Wan's dealing with his own problems, I think.
Not yet, but will be. But yeah, so like, that's my problem with this episode.
I think
my only problem with that episode, really.
I forget if it's brought up to him via...
And then she gets poisoned, which also, like, I'm like, okay, I kind of get that Padme might have fallen for that, but also, I feel like she would have been keeping an eye on for something for like that to happen. It feels weird that they wrote Padme this way, is what I'm saying. I think episode 4 wrote her weird. But you were saying getting a call thing in the episode.
So one of the things that I was thinking about is, I'm like, you know, in hindsight, if I'm remembering correctly, the Jedi ask Anakin to go ask Padme.
Yeah, they want him to ask Padme because they call him 7 times to get him to like come see, because he comes back because obviously he's been doing the holocron heist thing.
Mm-hmm.
So he comes back home for the first time, has dinner with Padme, and has his phone on silent essentially the whole
Anakin
time.
basically is like, hey,
He has it on Do Not
and
Disturb.
He's like, I just got back. Hey, you want to go on like
A home date.
a home date or some shit?
Just have some dinner.
Just have a nice fucking day where something isn't going
where it's
wrong.
just us. And so he has his phone on Do Not Disturb, and they've called him 7 times.
Yeah, and Anakin's like, fuck, I
actually have to go.
God damn it.
And she's like, oh, are they calling? He's like, actually, they called about 7 times.
Called 7 times, and if I don't show up, Obi-Wan's gonna send out a squad to look for me.
Because it's gonna be suspicious.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so they ask him to go to, like, ask her. And he's like,
I don't want to do that. And they're like, okay, and?
Too bad. Like, why do you care?
Yeah, and Anakin's like, because she's my friend.
Once again, showing that Anakin is terrible at keeping that marriage a secret.
Everyone's like,
It's the worst kept secret in the galaxy. And it makes it worse because of how he treats Rush the whole time. Like, how did Rush not clue in? Like, there were so many. Like, Rush should have figured that out so easily.
yeah.
But yeah, so I have some problems with this episode, but overall it gets us to where we need to go for the rest of the arc.
It gets us to the good part.
Which the rest of this arc is really good.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say the entire Battle of Geonosis thing is good. It actually makes Kiadi okay.
I like
Kiadi-Mundi's okay.
I like the Battle of Geonosis and how it's like, oh no, this does feel...
Well, this is back to like how season 1 was with the Ryloth arc. Ryloth was very much a World War II battlefront, right? Like that was like what inspired. Well, also Vietnam for Ryloth because you got a lot of the focus on the civilians. Whereas this one is straight up just World War II.
This one
it's like Normandy, D-Day. We're back, except we're back where it began, but with a new generation of clones. Because remember, we are on like our 2nd or 3rd gen of clones by this point. Because Rex is not 1st gen. Because they make a point to bring up that Rex was not at the first Battle of Geonosis.
Oh, that reminds me. While I was watching this and I watched it with Lee, another one of my siblings. I have a lot of siblings.
Yeah.
That's already information the podcast knows. And so we got there, and I'm like, yeah, Commander Rex and Captain Cody.
You switched their commands.
Yeah. I'm like, wait a minute.
Such disrespect.
I'm like, wait a minute, that's not right.
You pulled a Willy Wonka, you're like, hold on, reverse that.
So it's a Wonka wheelie.
Wonka wheelie. Because you know how, like, in the classic film, he does the rewind that, reverse it, or rewind it, switch it. You know, you basically pulled that.
I'm like, wait, no, that's not right at all. But I do really like Obi-Wan, there's blood on his face at the end of it.
Well, because he gets beat up in that first episode of when they're actually on Geonosis.
Yeah. They haven't even gotten to the base yet. They're just trying to get there. And it's
because they have to start so far out,
yeah.
Which also, calls into, like, the idea, because obviously people are like, oh, in Star Wars in space, why do they have to land on certain sides of the planet? Because future weapons and stuff, they can't just get where they want to go.
Also, it's a siege battle.
Yeah.
And those fucking suck, regardless of where you are.
Yeah. And that's not even arguing, like, the space superiority they already had. Because they already, like, just getting to the ground was a pain.
Yeah.
Although we didn't get an entire episode of space like we did with the Ryloth episodes. This time they're just like, no, we're going to get to the ground.
Yeah. And it's like, god damn, man.
But yeah, they actually made Kiadi somewhat likable in this episode. Somewhat. Only somewhat. We're not going to give that man too much credit. I do like that he's like, he plays the game at the end. He's like 40. What was it? 45.
65.
Or 65. Yeah, because it was 63. It was like 60 for Anakin and Ahsoka, and he's like, Because Anakin and Ahsoka play a game where they keep track of how many kills they get. And Ahsoka initially wins with 60. And then Anakin's like, well, hold on. I took out that big thing. That should count for like 5.
I called it an airstrike.
I called it an airstrike. That should count for like 5 points, putting me at 60 as well. So we tied. And then, like, as they're getting Obi-Wan onto the airlift to go get med attention, Kiadi looks over and he's like, 65. And Anakin's like, what you talking about? He's like, my score, 65. And he's like, oh, yeah, you're trying to play too. That's cute. And then he's like, what do I get? He's like, what do I win?
Anakin, my undying respect.
And Obi-Wan's like, oh man, that's I haven't earned that.
He goes, it's a gift Anakin rarely bestows.
Obi-Wan's like, I haven't even earned that.
And Kiadi's response is, oh.
Like I said, this makes him somewhat likable in this episode because that is such a funny moment, in my opinion.
They're very comedic moments.
I also like the moment when they have to destroy the wall to get past it in that episode, and Anakin's like, why didn't anybody talk about the wall? Ahsoka's like, I did talk about the wall.
I didn't fucking tell you about the wall, and you interrupted me, asshole.
You just didn't listen to me. And so when they go to take it out, they use the Force to throw Rex over.
He's like, you could just tell me to jump, you know?
And then they catch him with the Force. He's like, and then they're like, but it's more fun to throw you and catch you.
Like, I can't deal with this.
So okay, that moment. So first off, this show obviously was coming out before the canon, before the Disney takeover, right? So before the canon reset, when Legends was still kind of in effect, right?
Yeah.
Because when the canon reset, it was just the 6 movies and this show that were kept as canon. But when this show was coming out, there was some different information that we had about the clones and Order 66 and how that worked. Because the chips did not exist. Because you know how in the canon, the chips are why they killed the Jedi, right? So spoilers for when we get to season 6 of this show. But it's a chip in their brain that the Sith had made sure was implemented. That when they say Order 66, cool, let's go kill some Jedi. But that information did not exist at the time of when the show was coming out. At that time, it was just the clones were fine with this. They were fine with turning on the Jedi. And in fact, some of the clones hated the Jedi from the beginning. Him tossing Rex before that information swaps, in hindsight, gives Rex so much. Like, it's like, in my mind, I was like, man, before that swap, Rex would have probably been like, fuck these Jedi, I can't wait till I kill them.
Yeah. There's a lot of times where I'm like, seeing the clones where I'm like, now I'm like, okay, we know the Jedi care and everything, but I'm like, if you didn't have that,
if you didn't have that and you didn't have like the chips,
if they were regular like clones, because clones are people, I'm like, I can see why once you got the order of like, hey, go kill these motherfuckers. I'm like, we have been dealing with these assholes for like what, 4 or 5 years.
And there's a couple moments where I'm like, man, if this season, if the information we get later in this show didn't contradict what was in Legends, and you know the canon swap didn't happen, my God, Rex is a salty motherfucker, and it makes sense.
Yeah.
But no. So obviously we know that that's not what he's thinking. He's just like, come on, guys,
just let me know. Give me the dignity of throwing myself off of it.
He's like, I'll do it. Just ask me.
Yeah.
Oh man. And then like the rest of this arc, oh man, we get the introduction of Ahsoka and Barriss' friendship in this arc.
You know, I was thinking about this. I'm like, man, I wish I'd seen more Barriss episodes when I was younger.
We'll get some more.
Yeah.
So and like, yeah.
I was looking, I was like, oh, she has a cute little heart design on her belt. I'm like, that's nice. Knowing that with future information, knowing how things are gonna go so bad for this poor girl.
I mean, you can start to see where she's starting to like, even now she's starting to not like how the Jedi are operating, right? Like we already see those hints of what will come in the future of the show. I feel like we're avoiding spoilers, but this show has been around long enough, and there are other pieces of media with Barriss that show her the rest of her journey. I do like that her journey does end positively, though, overall. But we do see where she's gonna. We see the hints of why she turns to the dark a little bit.
Yeah.
It's that same failure that we talked about with for Rise of the Red Blade. I mean, it's the same story. It's Jedi kind of missing things here and there. It's not an overall failure of the Jedi as a whole. It's just things fall through the cracks situation.
Yeah. No institution is perfect. You're not going to get everything.
And so we start to see that with Barriss just we start to see where she's going to shift, because it's actually really Ahsoka that makes her kind of rethink the war, whether Ahsoka meant to or not. Because when they get trapped in the rubble and they think they're going to die, Barriss is like, our masters will find us, and if they don't, it's fine. And Ahsoka's like, what?
What?
No! No, we fight! We fight to get out of here!
Barriss is like, I'm at peace with this. And Ahsoka's like, fuck that!
We're getting out of here, we're gonna live! Ahsoka's like, we're gonna make sure they find us. And so, like, I think Ahsoka is both a positive and a negative in this case, where she's like, it is a positive, yes, you should be fighting for yourself to get out of this situation. And you shouldn't just go, oh, I give up, it's fine, whatever happens, happens. No, you gotta work for whatever you want to happen, right? At the same time, though, it's going to lead her to a lot of thoughts later on, where she starts to see the more and more of the failures of the Jedi institution, in the case of at least how they treat Padawans and the clones as a whole, right?
Yeah.
And the people of the Republic. And then we get the brain, and then of course after that, since they destroyed the factory and the new weapon, which was like these superpowered tanks that no blasters could get through.
Yeah.
We get the started the Brainworms arc, which, because they're chasing Poggle the Lesser, who's run away from the factory. He's like, well, time to get out of here. Time to go back to the Queen. Run away! And so they chase Poggle through like a sandstorm, where eventually they find the Queen. Turns out she's making some babies and making some eggs and making some brainworms, which are controlling dead Geonosians.
Yeah, Lee James is like, he's sitting next to me, he's like, I hate this, I hate it so much. And I'm like, so I turn to him and I'm like, so do you have a problem with insects, the undead, or the brain, or the body snatching?
All of it.
And he's like, I fucking hate all of it. I'm like, this is really cool. However, it's also horrifying.
Wait till you learn, buddy. The Queen is still alive by the time of Darth Vader.
I'm like, that makes sense. I'm like, what, you fucking thought some rocks would do it?
Yeah, no, she lives all the way till Darth Vader 2017.
Oh, man.
And when we get to there, we'll get to talk about her fate and how that's going for her, because she is not making Geonosian babies anymore, but she's still making babies. Yeah.
Need to burn it.
At the same time, though, it's also bad, because you shouldn't be putting an entire race to extinction either, especially since it's a sentient species.
Yeah, I'm like,
we call that a genocide.
I'm like, the crimes of the few do not reflect upon the many.
Yeah, because it's really Poggle the Lesser that's kind of fueling this war.
Yeah, I'm like, so we can just kill him, right? And everything will be cool. And it's like, no, that's not how it works.
But yeah, so the brainworms, while they drop some rocks on the Queen, brainworms still survive and in fact get infected into some clones. Just as Ahsoka and Barriss are like, we're gonna take some of the clones back to they're going to the medical, right?
Yeah, they're going to a medical frigate.
Yeah, so like, we're gonna go to the medical frigate station, so that way we can heal up and get pick up some more clones. And yeah, the brainworms want to infect the entire army, because that's the plan. Thankfully, Ahsoka finds out about this in time. Barriss gets infected. Ahsoka finds out about this in time, along with some of the clones, and learns that their weakness is cold.
Yeah.
So they just raise the AC up
Time to crank the AC up.
to like where it's 0 degrees.
Yeah. I'm like, man, if the brainworms don't get to you, this fucking cold will.
Thankfully, it's like at the last second when she's really raising that temp
Mhm.
or cooling that temp, and so it's saved. Yeah, day is saved.
Woo.
But that's the second Battle
Yeah.
Genos, just Brainworms arc. I like it. It's creepy. It's fun.
It's
If you
body snatcher.
It doesn't start off that way because obviously it starts off like this World War II vibe, and then it goes to this horror
You
vibe.
ever played Nazi zombies from World at War? It's that.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a fun arc. Then we get a 2-episode arc that's only semi-tangentially connected. It's connected by Grievous.
Yeah.
And so I called it Grievous and the Deserter arc. So I had to come up with the names for these arcs. There used to be names for the arcs, but they're not on Wikipedia anymore. So I just had to come up with names for them. And so this one's Grievous and the Deserter. And so it's the first episode is them hunting down Grievous. And
He got away.
he got away.
again.
Yeah.
Because he has to.
And so it eventually leads to a second episode, which I think is the real meat of the arc.
Rex gets shot by some commando droids who are a lot more of a problem. Like, I understood it going in. There probably are some droids where it's just like, oh, these guys are for real. Commando droids and droidicas are now it for me, where I'm like, fuck, this is going to be a hard mission, isn't it?
Yeah. And so Rex gets shot up, so they have to find a place for him to rest. They find this farm where this Twi'lek and her kids are living out. And they're like, I guess we'll take you in.
Yeah.
And
For the night.
And we learn that the dad is a deserter clone. Hence the deserter title of this arc.
And Rex is mad at him.
Yeah.
But the rest of the clones are neutral on it, I guess.
Yeah, because basically at this point, this is when Rex is still full, like, by the book, almost. Like, he's looser than Cody, but he's still, like, still by the book compared to, like, a bunch of other clones. Because he's a captain, you know.
Yeah.
That makes sense, you know.
Rex is like, you betrayed your brothers. And the, God, I can't remember what the deserter clone's name is. But essentially he's like, look, man, I didn't choose to fucking be there. So I left.
Cut's his name.
Yeah. And Cut's like, I didn't choose to be born to fight in a war, so I left.
He's like, I should get the right to choose whether I fight or not.
Yeah. I'm like...
And honestly, I think they both make valid points. Obviously, Cut, I agree with more. I do think as individuals, they should. And in fact, Cut makes some really good, like... He gets some good digs in. Because when Rex is about to introduce himself, he's like, Captain, what's your number? Which, if...
It's like,
He's like, I've got a name. And he's like, but that's not regulation now, is it?
like, shut up.
Because, like, obviously the Jedi allow it, but if they were to really go by the book, clones don't have names. They give each other and themselves their names.
Yep.
And so, like, Cut makes some valid arguments and gets some good digs in.
Yeah.
And so eventually, though, they have to team up because Grievous sends the commandos after Rex and the other clones. And so...
Because they're trying to... Grievous is trying to find a way off world.
Yeah. And so he's like, well, first I gotta deal with these guys who keep following me. And I'm losing droids because they're all dying from power, like a loss of power, because all the droids... The main battle droids are losing power, battery life, essentially.
Yeah.
And so he's like, I gotta do something. And so he sends some commando droids after them, and so they have to hold off the farm, and Cut gets to bring out his sniper rifle and be awesome. And
yeah. And
because Cut's like, look, I'm not gonna be participating in the war, but I'm gonna protect my family.
I'm not gonna participate in the war, but I'm gonna protect the people who are in my house.
And my family, like, because he's like, my family is, like...
My family is here, and you're still my brother, even though we're arguing about some pointless shit.
Yeah.
Well, not pointless, but
Like, yeah, we're arguing about something valid to argue about, but like, even though we're fighting, we still have a common enemy.
also you're a guest.
Yeah. We get more cut later, just not in Clone Wars.
And so that happens. Family's safe. Grievous
Also, the
runs off again.
Also, the start of the questions about children of Cross. Because people are curious if that was adopted or if they were by birth. I would say adopted. I would say he adopted them into his family. Because we do see that, like, later on we know about Jace, for example. Like, Kanan and Hera's son. So we know what that looks like. And they don't look like that. For a while it was...
That happened... Well, Clone Wars happens before. So.
Yeah, Clone Wars happens before that setup. And so, like, at least in Legends, there was a lot of belief that it was the mom's side that you got the traits of. So for a while, there was some discussion about whether or not they are Cut's actual birth children. But also, the war hasn't been going on long enough for him to have kids. So
yeah, they're too old for that.
Yeah. So
if the war's been going on for...
It's only been really going on for a year.
Yeah.
If that. If that.
They would be too old.
Because remember, we cover a 3-year war over 7 seasons of a TV show.
Yeah. So
yeah, assuming Cut is even first gen clone,
he would have had to have left
immediately. Well, because he does say he was at the Battle of Geonosis.
Yeah. So he can't be.
So he was a first gen clone.
So he can't be.
So he left like immediately after Geonosis.
He
but that's still
Geonosis. Saw his friends die. It was like, fuck this.
Because he does talk about that. He says I saw that and I got out.
Yeah.
And so he is first gen clone, but also that's still not enough time to have kids. Because once again, that probably only happened like months ago. Still, relatively speaking. Because, once again, we're still talking about a very short war. Like, 3 wars is long, but it's also short in terms of, like, stuff you can get up to during that period of time.
I don't know if clones can have children in Star Wars.
They can.
Okay, cool.
I would think. Anyways, we haven't... I don't think we've explored that.
The reason why I'm asking is because typically when you make a clone of something, the clones are infertile.
I don't think we've actually explored it.
And I don't know if the rules are different in Star Wars.
I don't think we've explored it in canon, anyways. We might have explored it in Legends. If there's some other Star Wars experts out there who know about that type of situation happening, feel free to email, leave a comment, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
But I can't think of one off the top of my head right now. I don't think at all we've explored it in canon. And then in Legends, it could have been explored, but it would have been probably like years ago.
Yeah.
It would have been so long ago that I can't think of like that.
It was just a thought.
Yeah.
It was a question. I was like, someone else has to have asked this at some point.
Probably.
But eventually, back on topic, Grievous ran off again, and Cut asked Cody, hey...
You mean Rex?
Fuck. God damn it. Cut asks Rex...
Hey, keep the secret.
Hey, are you gonna turn me in? And he's like, I don't know, man. That gunshot to my chest kind of made...
it made me forget things.
A little bit delirious, so...
I don't... Like, I should report, but I don't remember.
Yeah, funny that. Oh, well.
Who knows? Showing that Rex is evolving as a character, getting some character growth, which we love to see. Next episode is a standalone episode. It's Lightsaber Lost.
Ahsoka loses her lightsaber.
Yeah, and then goes on a fun journey with Terra Sanube to find it before Terra Sanube gets frozen in Vader's castle in Obi-Wan.
Yep.
And we... Just a reminder of Terra Sanube's sad fate.
Terra Sanube showing like good detective work.
But also we know Terra Sanube's good because we've seen how awesome he is because High Republic. High Republic Adventures, going undercover as a pirate.
Yeah.
Terra Sanube's always been awesome. Terra Sanube's... Also the main lesson is, hey, slow down, think, then act.
Slow down, observe, think.
Yeah. It's a lesson that Ahsoka needs because Anakin has not taught her that.
Anakin's not the type of person who would tell you that ever.
So he's like, look, you need to just pace yourself.
Anakin's solution for almost everything else, apologies.
No, you're good.
No, we handle the problem right now as quick as we can because so many more people are in danger.
Yeah.
It's calling me. I don't recognize
Yeah.
that number.
But yeah,
If it's important, they'll call
it's a fun one-shot episode. We get some Ahsoka character development. We get a fun couple chase scenes in this episode.
Yeah.
I like the car chase scene, and I like the jumping across the buildings chase. Like, I really like that stuff. That was fun. Terrace Nube's a fun character. Good episode all around. We get some really meaty episodes. We get the Mandalore plot arc.
Yeah. And it's, oh no.
I didn't want to call it the Mandalore arc because there's like so many times we go back to Mandalore, so I was like, this is just the Mandalore plot arc, which is the name of the first episode in the arc. So we learn about Obi-Wan's ex.
Yep.
So Obi-Wan has to go be a diplomat to Mandalore to basically be like, hey, you should get involved with the war because there's some Mandalorians that are joining up on the other side that are not like part of Mandalore proper, and you need to do something about that. Also, he brings up Jango Fett, and they're like, Jango Fett ain't a Mandalorian, which is the start of the Jango Fett's not really a Mandalorian discussion. That a lot of people don't trust that information based on who says it, because spoilers for season 3 or 4, he turns out to be not a great dude. But people don't trust that information. But of course, we've now, with Book of Boba Fett and The Mandalorian, we now know. Nope, Jango Fett was a foundling, but he never got like initiated into the like religion of Mandalorian culture itself. So he never truly became a full Mandalorian.
Yeah.
He got the armor because he was a foundling, but he never like became a Mandalorian. We're arguing semantics at this point, but the semantics in this case matter. And so he's, but yeah, they bring up Death Watch, which is a group that's very important to like Legends material, and so that's kind of interesting that they bring it into this, because they bring up the Mandalorian Civil War, which Death Watch was a big part of in Legends, because it was the Death Watch versus Mandalorians, like proper Mandalorians. And in Legends, Jango Fett was on the Mandalorian side, but obviously that information has now changed based on what we know about Jango Fett's past. Eventually, one day, we'll do Legends content on this show, but right now I don't want to confuse you, because there is so many contradicting information that if we start talking about Legends as if it's part of this, then it's gonna which is why I'm making clear, I'm like, this is Legends and we can talk about it, but this is not.
Me and you have also discussed how we view information in regards to Star Wars, in regards of like Legends and canon. For me, it's go with the canon unless
there's open gray area to talk about it. Yeah, like if there's something that like canon has not said, this is definitive.
Yeah,
and like Legend,
like you will put stuff there, whereas I will leave that space blank. Mm-hmm. Which, if we're doing this based on a test of like who's giving answers and not, would penalize me. But I'm like, I would rather not at all if I'm missing that information.
And even then, I will make clear this is Legends, and because the reason I do it that way is because from the beginning they've said Legends is essentially the stories you hear at the bar. Like these are you go to the bar and you hear a guy telling a crazy story in the back about Luke doing some crazy shenanigans.
It might be true, it might not be.
Yeah. And so that's just how that's why I interpret it that way, and I think everybody has space to interpret it a certain way as long as you make clear what you're talking about. I think once you start to say Legends is canon, you start to dilute that conversation, and you are no longer objectively correct. I think there is objectivity there, but I think where the subjective is, how do we interpret Legends as Legends, right? Whereas you go, oh, it's just a separate universe, and I'm not going to put it in the blanks. I go, it is a separate universe, but also it's in the, it's stories in the universe.
Yeah.
So I view it as the fiction within the, that could be true, but until it gets documented by a historian and made canon, right? Then it's just legend. Like Thrawn was just legend, but now he exists as a being in canon history. His history is different than what the legends told us. Therefore, the legends are no longer accurate. People probably still talk about them in the bars, but if you're a historian in universe, you can go, well, actually, that's not what happened. But it's a whole, yeah. And so, but yeah, back to the Mandalore stuff.
Yeah.
Because Mandalore gets complicated, because this is where Legends and how George viewed the Mandalorians starts to diverge, and I think it is important to talk about Legends while talking about the show, because this show was coming out while the expanded universe was still the expanded universe and not Legends. So this is the show that started to change information based on what we knew, because George didn't always agree with the expanded universe. Sometimes he said, you know what, I'll take that. Like, he took Coruscant from the Thrawn trilogy. He's like, I like that idea of a city world. I'm gonna put that in my prequel films. But he also changed how it worked and stuff like that. And so Mandalorians were known as being a warrior culture in Legends in the expanded universe. And this actually, when these episodes came out, created a lot of controversy.
Man, people were mad.
Oh yeah, no. For anybody who is like, oh, I love the Mandalorian episodes. I always loved them, and they hate the sequels for just changing things. Buddy, you must not have been around for when the Mandalore plot episodes came out initially, because I remember the hatred for it. I remember, I was there. No, I didn't mind, but I remember how much because I think the Mandalore plot arc makes it clear that yes, at one point they were a warrior culture. It does not change the past. The problem is there's information in the expanding universe that in the future they are still warriors, and so I think that's where the divergence really hits. And so, and also the removing of Jango as a Mandalorian really messes with people, because Boba Fett in the expanded universe became Mandalore after the events of episode 6. So yeah, that's why a lot of people were angry about these, but they make it clear that they were a warrior culture, but Satine is trying to change that.
Satine is the one pacifist that gets born in them every 90 years.
But also, her being Duchess has made a positive effect on the Mandalorian culture, where they are you know what, peace is cool.
Yeah.
Because the main reason that we know that this peace had to happen is because of the last Mandalorian Civil War that Obi-Wan and Satine were part of, and that they, had their romantic fling with, and then they chose different paths.
There's
the line in the second episode of the arc.
God,
is it that one?
It's that, because I'm there's a time when Obi-Wan is not a Jedi, and he doesn't go through all of this bullshit.
And it only gets worse, because you and I know what happens in season 5.
Obi-Wan, as a person, by the time things are at an end, right, should be the most spiteful motherfucker.
But he's not. He's at peace with things, because he's I've seen a lot, and sure, I've suffered a lot, but also that's just life sometimes. Yeah. And so Obi-Wan comes to peace with a lot of things. But yeah, no, and so I like the back and forth banter of Satine and Obi-Wan.
It's very much like
where it's very much a like they are mostly agreeing, but it's just a specific talking point.
Yeah.
That's like where they disagree.
The sarcasm of a soldier, the delusions of a dreamer.
It's like, I agree that it would be great if Obi-Wan's like, I agree that it would be great to have what you want, but also realistically, and she's like, you realism, sir.
You and your realism.
And I like it because it gives you as an audience member a chance to critically think about it and go, there's good points on both sides. I don't think there's a 100% right person in this argument.
Satine, I think it does a little bit better of the first season. The
with the Lerman.
Yeah, it's that, but done well.
Yes, like the Lerman arc, they're just like, we're not
Lerman
involved
are
at all.
What I like to call hardcore pacifists.
Whereas Satine's like, no, I'll defend myself still.
Satine is a technical pacifist, at least when it comes to droids.
Yeah, like she's like, I'll still defend myself. I'm just not gonna get involved in this war.
Yeah.
Like if they come here, well, because it's more of a, I don't want to say isolationist because that has such a negative context when using that term.
Yeah.
But Mandalorians are isolationists.
Yeah.
Because they're independent. That's the better word.
It's just their nature.
They want to be an independent
They're like,
nature.
we would like it if everyone would leave us alone.
They don't want to be part of the Republic. They don't want to be part of the Separatists. They want to rule themselves and be their own thing. Which is the argument that we've made about the Outer Rim as a whole and how Star Wars is about... Star Wars is actually about conquering the Outer Rim. It's a conversation we've had before. Because every version of Star Wars is always about how is the bad guys attempting to conquer the Outer Rim, or even the good guys, because the Republic want to take over the Outer Rim too. It's all about how do we conquer the Wild West.
Yep. And Mandalore says, well, we can either talk this out, or we can let you deal with those guys. Yeah. The rest of us who are not happy about any of this.
And so they go to the moon of Duxon, right? No, Concord. Concordia. Yep. Yeah, because Conquered Dawn was a thing for a minute. Yeah, Concordia. And so they go to the moon of Concordia, which is like its own like nation within the nation. Like it's its own subset. It's governed by its own. It's got its own governor. And so they go to talk to him, and he's pretty chill at first, voiced by Jon Favreau. You know, Happy Hogan from Iron Man. Yeah.
He's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Co-writer and director of The Mandalorian. He's like, I don't know what's going on, because a Death Watch guy dies, trying to blow up and kill, like Satine and Obi-Wan, and it fails, and they just die on their own. Like they fall off a building and die. And it turns out he's a Concordian, and so Satine's like, by tradition, we got to go see them.
Yeah, we got to go give the body back, essentially.
Yeah, and you have to go because you were involved, even if you didn't do anything, which is the only reason we're still friends, because you didn't do anything. Because Obi-Wan's like, I didn't kill him, and she's like, yeah, that's why we're still cool.
They're not gonna see it that way, which is why I'm going with you.
And it's also why we're still cool, because if you did kill him, I'd be mad.
Yep. And so that goes.
And so they have like dinner thing where Obi-Wan goes to investigate. She's on the phone doing where they're doing the thing that the trope of, I'm talking to somebody else on the phone, but you don't know that. And it sounds like it somehow works out perfectly that what I'm saying on the phone answers your questions too. But no, and then it turns out that Jon Favreau, Death Watch.
He might be evil.
He might be a member of Death Watch. In fact, he might be the member of Death Watch. Yeah. He is the guy. He is the bad guy. He has the Darksaber.
Yep.
Because he's a. Why did I forget his name? It's very Vizsla. He's pre-Vizsla. So he has the Vizsla. So obviously he's like, it's gone down. It's been through my family for generations because Tar Vizsla is the initial owner of it.
We've killed a lot of Jedi with this.
Yeah, And so we get the introduction of the Darksaber, because this is the first time ever we see the Darksaber in anything. So this is the introduction to it, because George Lucas didn't like the idea of... the reason the Darksaber is created is because he didn't like vibroblades. He's like, I don't think any metal weapon should be able to fight a lightsaber. So that's why the Darksaber was created.
And so came a new problem. And I was thinking about this, knowing what I know about the
Darksaber
and how things work. I'm like, so, wait a minute.
So technically, Obi-Wan should buy...
Yeah, by how this works.
But also, it wasn't an official challenge or anything, so yeah. Although, technically...
Even if
technically, it doesn't have to be an official challenge, because that's how Din gets it from Gideon. Because Gideon's like, haha, you beat me, guess you got the sword. And he's like, and then Din's like, wait a minute, I didn't mean to get this. And Gideon's like, but I tricked you, and now there's going to be infighting.
And I'm like, wait a minute, Prey Vizsla. Also, you fucking cheated. You called in like 3 of your guys.
But this, once again, it wasn't that type of fight. This is a case.
This was a, we need to kill this Jedi right now.
Yeah, this wasn't a, hey, I'm fighting for leadership of Mandalore. This was a, we need to kill this guy.
Yeah.
It wasn't meant to be a fair fight.
Mm-hmm.
The
fact that he hands Obi-Wan his lightsaber back is fucking hilarious.
He's like, look, it's not meant to be a fair fight, but I at least want to fight you.
Mm-hmm. Rub me my face, said Prey Vizsla.
But yeah, so we get Prey Vizsla, who's gonna reoccur more often, but in future episodes. So that's the first episode of the plot of the Mandalorian plot arc. Second episode, they are on their way to Coruscant because there's like a council of independent systems that like include Mandalore, Ryloth, and a few others that are like, hey, we want to have a seat at the table still to talk to the Republic while we're independent. We still want to make our cases to the Republic for why we should stay independent, right? And so they're on a ship to do that, and somebody's trying to kill Satine again.
Yep, because that's a separatist pastime, I guess, or a Mandalorian one.
But yeah,
sometimes both.
This time it's like spider droid drones that are after him. Did you watch this one with Lee too? I feel like he wouldn't have liked the drones.
I think I didn't watch it with him.
Oh, okay.
I think he was playing Elden Ring. I like mark locations on the world map, so you can go and explore.
Yeah, I don't think he would have liked that one.
I enjoyed it.
It was fun, and of course I like how Obi-Wan solves it, because he's like, well, this droid will specifically go after Satine, and anybody who tries to stop it probably won't go after the owner. Scares Senator, what's his name from Ryloth? Frito-Lay.
Orn Frita.
Frito-Lay. Senator Frito-Lay.
I remember, because he gets in an argument with Cham Syndulla in episode 1.
Yeah. Or you mean in season 1?
In season 1, not episode 1.
Yeah, he was in the Phantom Menace, didn't you see? But no, they do their. Yeah. He figures out it's a guy who's from Mandalore, I think. Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, he was like a representative too. Yeah. And so you
see him with a.
Yeah, because he's in the first episode of the arc.
In the first episode.
Yeah. So it turns out it's one of the representatives, and then he pulls what might be the most sinister thing he could have pulled in this situation. So Anakin is on this one with him, because Anakin showed up at the end of the first episode of the arc, and Obi-Wan's like, oh, thank God you're here, because I am sick and tired of this woman.
I'm exhausted.
And Anakin's like, oh, okay. And Anakin also, during this episode, starts to piece together that they had a thing. Mm-hmm. And Anakin's like, so why didn't you say anything? And Obi-Wan's like, because that was a long time ago. Also, and then, of course, we get also the iconic line in this episode, which everybody loves this line. It's not just you. Mm. It's the, if you asked me, I would have left the Jedi. If you had asked me, I would have left the Jedi.
Yeah.
And because she's like, they argue about why he didn't join her. And he's like, if you had asked me. And it's just like, dang, that's how much he loved her. Like, he would have left if she had said, he's like, if you say the word, that's what it is. If he had said the word, I would have left.
Yeah. That means that there have been at least 2 times where Obi-Wan is considered being like, fuck it.
Yeah, because what the first one is Padawan, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because Master and Apprentice, he doesn't consider it. Master and Apprentice, he's pretty firm in his stance as a Jedi.
In Padawan, he learns that, oh, I can walk away.
Yeah, Padawan's the one where he considers it.
What I was referring to is like when he's explaining to Yoda at the end of Phantom Menace, he's like,
oh yeah, so I guess 3 times.
He's like, regardless, I'm gonna train him.
So I guess 3 times he considered leaving the Order, because Padawan and then Phantom Menace. I guess technically, I never really viewed it that way. I viewed it
That's
as,
what I understand.
I viewed it as I viewed the Phantom Menace as, I'm gonna stay a Jedi, but I'm gonna teach him whether or not you like it.
Yeah,
that's how I viewed that, but maybe
slightly different interpretation.
Obi-Wan and Anakin, though, he definitely said he would have left if Anakin had left.
Yeah, that's another one.
So I guess we're just counting
He's like,
up.
there are 2 people. There were 3 people in the galaxy that mattered to me. One of them is dead.
Yeah, Qui-Gon.
And the other is my not brother
/ son
and my ex-girlfriend.
Yeah. And so, like, there are moments where he's considered it.
Yeah.
But they're very rare, and they are it's really emotional ties in that case, which goes to the argument about attachments and the like. But also, I think the fact that he is able to let go of those things shows that they aren't bad attachments, right? Because he can let go of those things, but he also realizes that he does care about those things, showing that you can care about things while also not being attached, which is important to being a Jedi. Last episode is just Satine on the run.
Yep.
Oh, I didn't even bring up the big thing. Sorry, I meant to bring up the big thing before that. Oh yeah, so the representative from Mandalore, who's the evil guy, has a bomb on the ship.
Yeah, he has a bomb on the ship, and he's like,
haha, you can do nothing about this because you can't kill me, because then it throws away your pacifist ideals. You can't kill me because you could, and you're not a pacifist, but then you'd look bad for her. Anakin's like,
so who will be the first to brand themselves a cold-blooded killer?
Anakin. Easy. Anakin, easy choice. And then they play the Vader theme showing that. Yeah, not a great choice.
Obi-Wan just goes, Anakin.
Because we always get...
Anakin's response is, what? He was going to blow up the ship.
Because we always get the Vader cue when it's like an obvious bad choice that Anakin's making. Especially in Clone Wars. Clone Wars loves to use the Vader cue when Anakin makes a bad decision. Because you hear it.
Yeah.
And then, because other options Anakin could have chose. Cutting off the man's hand. Very easy choice. And he would have still caught him off guard. He didn't have to kill him from behind. Because he still could have cut off his hand from behind and same job would have been done. So I think that's more of the why the Vader cue plays, is that like there were other options.
To me, it's just funny where he's like, "What are you both so fucking worried about?" He's
like, he's the bad guy.
It's like, in case you haven't noticed, he's been killing our men. He's tried to kill you.
But I do think it's a nuanced conversation, which is why, like, once again, they play the Vader theme to make that clear. Like, they are making it clear to the audience, in case you don't know, Anakin made a bad decision. It's the if you played a video game and you have light side, dark side things, and you do the dark side thing and the music cue happens.
Oh no.
And then you get dark side points, that's what just happened.
Oh, why'd I get 3,000 renegade points for that?
It's like, 'cause you killed a man.
Like, well, how is that any different from the other?
'Cause cutting his hand off at least lets him live.
Cutting a lot of people's hands off would let them live. It's not a good...
In this case, though, it's better than killing.
Yeah.
And plus, then he could have gone to jail, see some justice, yada, yada, yada. Yeah. Could have been an informant. Figure out more about Death Watch. But anyways...
That's not an option.
Now it's not. And then, so we get to Coruscant. Satine's there to give her speech. Turns out, somebody who was supposedly a supporter of her had just died. Gave a recording to them, to the Republic, and was like, Satine's out of control. That's essentially
Basically.
that's the basic rundown of that
it's like-
speech. And Satine's like, well, I want to talk to that person. They're like, oh, he just died this morning.
What?
She's like, but I just talked to him like yesterday.
And Obi-Wan is like, hey,
Maybe sit this one out.
maybe sit this one out. And Satine's like, no.
And so then she gets framed for murder of an informant.
The informant hands her like the entire message.
Yeah, because it turns out the message that the Republic played was doctored, and so he's like, "Here's the full recording," and then Death Watch shoots that guy, and they're like, "Well, shit, we were aiming for Satine. I guess we got to keep. Well, hey, at least she's framed for murder, but we'll keep trying to kill her at the same time too."
Yeah.
And so, and Dooku's like, well, shit, she can't get to that. She can't get to that vote. She can't get to that vote. We gotta stop her because she's gonna release some information we don't want.
If she gets to that, fuck.
And she makes it, of course. And she's like, here's the full recording. It was doctored to say that I was out of control. And they were like, actually, Satine is doing her best. And if the Republic intervenes, it's gonna be bad.
Yeah. So we can't accept assistance from the Republic or the Jedi at this time.
Like, while we are allied with them, we cannot accept your help.
Yep.
And that's the end of the Mandalore plot arc. We'll see more of the Mandalorians in the future, in season 3. So that, man, we talked about that one for a long time. Let's kind of get some of these other ones. Thankfully, the next 3 are standalone episodes. So Senate Murders is a murder mystery thing about Uncle Anno dying on Akandafar.
Yep. I was looking at the room and I'm like, who could it be? Isn't this the one character who I don't know? I was like...
To be fair, they try to throw some good red herrings.
They do. Admittedly, the inspector being like, politicians lie all the time. I'm sure you all have some secrets you'd rather not be found out.
Yeah.
To the entire room of people.
Because he's like, oh man, politicians lie all the time. Oh, what am I doing? I'm talking to a room full of politicians.
Yeah, I'm like, let's see, there's a Sith Lord, Padme's got her marriage with a Jedi.
I both love and hate the inspector.
Like,
he is hilarious, but he is also a bumbling idiot who cannot ever solve a crime.
Yeah.
Because honestly, if Padme and Belle did not do their own separate investigation, Anacondafar's killer would not have seen justice.
No.
Because he was happy to arrest the Kaminoan senator.
Yeah, I was like, well, clearly it's not you. Although you...
Because the reason they suspect that is because there's a bill about to come up about the, increasing the number of clones in the army, which of course is good for Kamino, because guess what? That means more money.
Yeah.
Because the Republic be paying for that army. It's not free. In fact, season 6 deals with where that money is coming from. Because there's a whole banking crisis going on in the background.
Yep.
That we don't get till season 6. So yeah, and so we learned that the motive was not about the bill. Even though, because that's the red herring. The red herring is it's about the bill, but it's not about the bill. It's actually about his mistake from season 1 of aligning with the Separatists.
Yeah.
And it's the fellow Rhodian.
His niece is not happy with it.
And so she killed she killed him over it.
Yeah.
And so and Padme's like, but he tried to do right afterwards. And he
like,
did.
It doesn't matter that he tried to do right. If he hadn't fucked up in the first place, we wouldn't be here.
Yeah. And so Uncle Anno didn't deserve that, man. He was a genuinely good guy who was...
I'm like, it's one of the ones where I'm really harsh on a lot of politician characters, just in general. It's one of the ones where I'm like, your people come first kind of thing.
And he tried to do the right thing. He was like, we needed food, that's why I signed up with the Separatists. They lied to us, so that's why I was like, well, oops. And he tried to make up for it since then. And so...
I'm like, oh man, it's amazing that none of your people back home assassinated you immediately, and that you made it this far.
And that episode is a kind of, I think it's a flash forward episode because it's in between a couple of season 3 episodes, because we see in season 3 we see an episode where Anaconda Far is alive.
Okay.
So that's why it's in that position in the timeline, which is part of the Heroes of Both Sides arc, which is like where we get to see a little bit more we see the complications of the war and how it's not as easy as the Republic good, Separatist bad. And there's even some hints of that in this episode, even if it's not part of that arc officially, right? So I count it as part of that arc, though. So I guess it's not technically a standalone episode, but it aired as one. And then the next, not really a standalone episode, but standalone episode is Cat and Mouse.
Anakin and Obi-Wan play battleship against a Separatist general.
Technically, Anakin more so than Obi-Wan.
Yeah. And they show how, hey, you know what's a good trick? Technological advancement.
Well, we also just get a submarine. It's Hunt for Red October. We get a submarine episode. Because usually in Star Wars, ships are more like fighter planes. At least like the actual like fighter ships. They're more like fighter planes, but the prototype stealth ship is more like a submarine. So it's and I think it was Hunt for Red October that was like kind of the inspiration of this, because it's like that kind of idea. But this takes place before the Traitor episode in season 1, which is before the Clone Wars movie, because this is them trying to get the supplies down to Christophsis for Bell to use to take care of people down there. And we get the introduction of a villain that will reoccur in this one with Admiral Trench.
I guess it's going to be mostly flashbacks then, because I think he dies at the end of this.
No, he gets cybernetics.
Oh,
so
neat.
So he did blow up. He just gets cybernetics to not be dead. Because we see some episodes where he has the cybernetics later, and so it's just like, oh, he survived that.
I imagine they're probably extensive.
Because also it's not the first time he fakes his death. Because even in this episode, he's like, oh yeah, I faked, because they thought he was dead. And then Admiral Yularen, who comes in clutch in this episode, is like, nah, I know this man. I know this strategy. I know who this is. Admiral Yularen gets the shine in that episode. I really like that. Next standalone is the Bounty Hunters episode, which is just a adaptation of Seven Samurai.
Yeah. And it's just, hey, just a reminder, not every bounty hunter is a scumbag.
Also a reminder that Star Wars is just inspired by Akira Kurosawa films. In fact, this episode is dedicated to him, because I think... So, yeah. I kind of wanted to count this as part of the Zillow Beast. I wanted to count those 3 episodes as an arc, because I was like, they're all inspired by Japanese media and the stuff that inspires Star Wars. But also I was like, Bounty Hunters is kind of its own thing. I'm not going to tie that in.
Yeah.
And so it's a Seven Samurais thing, which we get another Seven Samurai inspired episode in a different show for Star Wars. Star Wars just loves doing Seven Samurai.
Yeah.
So we get Seven Samurai. It's Jedi, and then it's our 3 main. It's Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka, and then 4 bounty hunters. We get the introduction of fan favorite Embo, along with his dog. We get the return of Hondo, another fan favorite character, who is the pirates in this case, who want to steal from the poor farmers.
Yep. Need that Silum.
Yeah, and he's like, hey, Hondo's like, look, if you just let me get this, we're cool. Because Hondo actually is like, hey, Obi-Wan, Anakin, it's been a minute. And they're like, fuck you, man.
Like, God damn it. How come every time I try to steal some shit?
But he's also trying to be friendly with them, too.
It's like, it's a game.
He's like,
I don't want to kill you guys. I just want my plants.
So I can make some money.
So I can make money. It's hard out here. It's hard being a pirate out here.
I do like more of Hondo and the rest. I like the last arc, Hondo's involvement with that. And so, yeah, so anyways, obviously Seven Samurais. They teach the farmers how to fight for themselves. Because that's exactly, once again, Seven Samurai. And then they just, then they beat the pirates.
Yep.
And
Hondo, this venture is no longer
profitable. He's like, it was fun playing, but I gotta go.
It's like, I actually have to make money. My men are starving.
Wartime's not easy. Then the next 2 episodes are an arc. It's the Zilla Beast arc, which is just Godzilla.
Yeah. I'm like...
Godzilla meets King Kong.
Kinda. It's a kaiju.
It's a kaiju thing, but it's I say it meets King Kong because of them doing the whole, we're going to transport him away from his home and bring him to the big city, and then the big city thing.
Yeah.
So the first...
Nope, it's gonna call it Godzilla. It's not. It's
the
legally
Zillo,
distinct.
The Zillo Beast.
The Zilla Beast. I'm with Mace. I'm like, why are we... I'm like, okay.
It looks dangerous and scary, but why do we gotta kill it?
Not even why do we gotta kill it. I'm like, okay, I'm fine with us studying it. Why would we bring it to Coruscant, of all places?
Yeah. Well, the first episode, though, is the dilemma of killing it, right? Because the first episode is they need to make a peace treaty with the Dugs on Malastare. And the Dugs are like, well, hey, the only way we're going to be cool with that is because y'all did a bomb that activated the Zillo Beast waking up. Yeah. It killed all the droids. It was an EMP that was meant for the droids. And it worked. But it also woke up the Zillo Beast.
Which is straight up ripped from Godzilla.
And yeah, I mean, it's basically, we dropped the nukes, and now Godzilla woke up in a moment. And so the Dugs are like, we gotta kill that thing. And they're like, Mace Windu's like, but why? It's not
and
really...
It's like, a long time ago it nearly wiped out everything on the planet.
But also, like, as Mace looks into it more, he realizes, oh no, y'all were the aggressors every time that happened. Y'all kept killing that thing, and that's why
there were a lot more of them.
Yeah. Like, y'all were the aggressors in this case. And so Mace is like,
I'm like, Mace has a valid point, but I'm also like, this is an internal.
But also, it's the only way to get the peace treaty.
Yeah, I'm.
Oh yeah,
it's
between
is
the Dugs.
It's between the Dugs, their planet, their problem, kind of thing. On the other hand, I'm like, well,
as peacekeepers,
you're obligated to. So this one for me, I think, is one of the ones where I'm like,
little column A, little column B.
Yeah.
And I think Mesa's solution is the best solution for that, which is, hey, we're just gonna knock it out and have it leave here.
Yeah.
The bigger problem is taking it somewhere to study.
Palpatine.
Palpatine.
Making a stupid decision in this one.
I think it's...
I know why he made the decision.
Because he's cocky.
No, it's because he wants...
Well, it's ego.
Well, there's that. But also he's like, it was resistant to lightsabers, you say.
But specifically, the bringing it to Coruscant was an ego thing. Bringing it to Coruscant
is an arrogant thing.
Yeah, it's his evil ego taking over on that one. Whereas... Honestly, I'm surprised Mace didn't fight back on studying it like that. I'm surprised Mace didn't go, no, we should put it in like a reserve sort of situation. Like, that's what threw me off. Mace was like, we aren't killing it, but we're gonna go send it to be studied and poked and prod at by scientists. It's like, Mace, hold on. You made an argument not to kill it, but you're okay with this?
I'm like...
Which he's not, at the same time. He's actually not, but he can't voice it, really.
Yeah, it's one of those, like, I can't say the quiet part out loud, god damn it.
Because, like, I can't fight the Supreme Chancellor any more than I already have. Because he's already on thin ice.
I can't argue with the President of the Galaxy.
Yeah, because he's already on thin ice, because it was already a move that Palpatine was like, hey, we shouldn't just knock this thing out, we should kill it, because we need the Dugs to sign the treaty, and we don't want to anger them. And Mace is like, we're doing it anyways.
And he's like, you're already putting enough pressure on the fucking treaty. Stop.
Yeah. Which, by the way, Palpatine's plan, I feel like should have gotten that treaty dissolved. Because of the fact that, how's the Zillo Beast going crazy in Coruscant not going to make the galactic news? And then the Dugs just watch the news and go,
like, you lying motherfucker.
But also, they already signed the treaty, so...
Yeah.
Can't get out. At least that's the way I imagine that conversation went.
Like, you already signed the paperwork, and it's like, fuck you, you didn't keep your end of the bargain.
And the poor Zillo Beast, man.
Yeah.
Because it goes the way of King Kong. It dies because of the asshole moves of Palpatine. It has nothing to do with the Zilla Beast. The Zilla Beast did nothing wrong. It just existed.
Yeah.
And even Padme's like, man, or Anakin. Even Anakin was like, Jesus, we killed this thing over our mistakes. Even Anakin realized the stupidity of this.
Anakin's like, I don't. Man,
He's like, I don't feel good about this.
This was not a good day for the Republic.
Like, when even Anakin is pointing out how evil something was.
Anakin, who decided, I will just beat the information out of Poggle the Lesser.
Yeah, so I think... And, of course, then Palpatine makes an even... I mean, we see the results of what Palpatine does, which is, hey, let's clone it now that the Zilla Beast is dead so we can have another test subject. And, of course... We didn't get the resolution to that storyline until Bad Batch, but we got the resolution of that. And hell yeah, Zilla Beast 2.0 got revenge for its clone originator. Ancestor, whatever we want to call it. Progenitor, yeah. So it got revenge for its progenitor. So let's go Zilla Beast.
Yeah.
And lastly is a really good arc, I think, that Season 2 ended out on, which is the Boba versus Mace Windu arc.
Mm-hmm. He comes so close so many fucking times. I'm like, when I...
So the first episode is Boba pretending to be a clone cadet, going on a Republic ship, working for Aurra Singh, and doing their bounty hunter thing that way. And so, along with Bosk in the background and Casca, which is a original character. Castus, who's an original character for Clone Wars.
Alongside Aurra Singh.
Well, yeah, I said Aurra. Yeah, because Aura's like kind of being Boba's mentor.
Yeah, there's a lot of times when, throughout this little arc, when Boba goes, but Aurra, and I'm like, oh, that's a but mom, isn't it?
Except Aurra has no motherly instinct.
No, she's really bad at it. Because she doesn't care.
Well, yeah, she's a terrible person. This is also another situation of the Clone Wars changing a lot of what we know about a character from how they were portrayed in Legends material.
Alright.
Aurra Singh specifically. So Aurra is a mystery character that existed for a long time because she exists in The Phantom Menace. She's like a cameo character that's at the pod race scene because we see her watching the pod race in that one snippet, right? So she's a background character that had no information. Legends was like, well, she's a bounty hunter, but she's also an ex-Jedi who failed, and so she's a Force-sensitive who is evil. Obviously, Clone Wars got rid of the Force-sensitive stuff.
Yep.
And they were just like, bounty hunter. Evil bounty hunter. So, that's about it as far as changes went. I think it's just fun to talk about these things, because it's like, hey, this is where the show kind of changed and brought new information for Star Wars fans. But yeah, so Boba is chasing Mace.
Because, you killed my dad.
He gets so close. That first
one, I'm like, Mace has no idea how fucking lucky he was.
If Mace didn't get called back to go to the bridge, and he was like, oh, if he had taken one more step, he was a dead man.
My one thing, I was like, that's a pretty good plan, Boba, except for the part where if anyone else walks into that room.
Yeah, so basically they leave like a little trigger thing that's going to blow up if it's a little trigger trap.
Yeah.
And so basically a wire trap, but with like lasers.
Yeah.
And so the Mace almost steps into it, walks back, is like, hey, can you put this in my room? And then Clone dies and blows up instead.
Yeah.
And so that's when the ship goes on high alert, and then everything goes to chaos, and the ship's crashing, and so many things go wrong. And so Boba ends up having to escape with some cadets.
There is a thing where it's like Boba is just a kid, and it does reinforce this. He's like, I don't want anyone else to die but Mace Windu. That's it.
Yeah, no, throughout the entire arc, that's kind of Boba's thing.
He's like, I just want to kill the guy that killed my dad.
I think this is where I think the canon version of Boba starts to line up with what we see in Book of Boba Fett, and why people who got angry in Book of Boba Fett about Boba not being some mass killer, badass, kind of miss who Boba has always been. He has always been a bounty hunter with honor. And we see in Book of Boba Fett that honor can backfire, because that's kind of the whole
problem.
thing. Yeah, that's kind of the whole problem with him having his honor code, is it kind of just keeps backfiring. But it does gain him a lot of allies, which is why at the end of the day he wins, right? Because of his honor, he manages to gain enough allies to win, right? But this starts to show the beginning of that, where we see Boba has always been that way. Boba has always been a genuinely good-leaning person. I won't say good person, but good-leaning, right? Like, if I was to put him on a scale, he's a good person who just happens to do bad things because of misunderstandings of the world, right? Because the reason he wants revenge on Mace is for killing his dad, but also that's like a complete misunderstanding of the situation, right? Because Jango obviously was a bad dude who made some bad decisions and is really the reason for his own death. Yeah. Like,
Jango was a bad... It's a case of...
Good father, bad person.
Good father, bad person.
Yeah. And so he was a bad person who did some things, and maybe he was a good person, he just made some wrong decisions here. We still haven't read the Jango Fett comic yet. It's on the schedule, though.
Yeah, but like, even from other sources of what we've seen that have Jango in them, like Dark Droids, where he goes and takes them to that place. He never tells anybody. He gets sworn to secrecy, never tells anybody else about it.
And it's something that Boba takes from him, because it's that honor code.
Yeah.
Jango has an honor system as well. And so it's a very similar situation of he's probably good-leaning, he's just made some bad choices, and his bad choices led to his death. Yeah. That's really the reality of what happened, right?
It's like, well, why do you work for like this evil gangster guy? And it's like, because my dad decided to ally with politics one time, and that got his head cut off.
Yeah.
So, you know.
And so, like, and it was a money situation, really. Mm-hmm. Like, Jango was set up for life, which is why he took the deal from the Separatists. So, once again, it was a bad decision that, like, set him up to that death.
Yeah, it's like, oh, what did he ask? He asked for, like, a son.
And just...
money.
Yeah. And the Separatists were willing to do that.
Yeah. Like, if the Republic themselves actually came, I don't think he'd have turned that offer away either.
Yeah. But since he had already made a deal with the Separatists, he's locked in because you don't break from a deal, right? Because of the honor code.
Yeah.
And so Boba has that same mentality towards the jobs, and it's why he doesn't want innocent people in the crosshairs, or, however, does not give a shit, or sees fair game to anybody who gets in the way. And so that's why, like, things go the way they do in this arc. So Boba eventually manages to get the other cadets not killed.
Yeah.
Because Aura's like, hey, I'm going to kill these guys because they're witnesses. And Boba's like, hold on, I'm going to go with you. There's no need to do that. Just leave them here stranded. It's whatever.
Yeah. It's the, like...
And they can't follow us.
They can't follow us. They can't call anyone.
Because basically they get in an escape pod because of the crashing ship. Yeah. And the Admiral stays on the ship, even though Anakin's like, hey, you got to get off here. And he's like, nope, I'm going down with the ship. Old school Admiral mentality. So, but yeah, it's a case of they can't follow us. It's unlikely they'll be saved. And even if they are, it'll be long after we're gone.
Yeah, so there's no point in us doing that. Also, it looks bad.
And they're not our target.
Yeah.
So, makes us look sloppy.
And so, Castus, they're like, we're gonna go and talk to fucking...
Well, before that, because remember, the next episode happens before they go to Florum.
Okay.
Because remember, the crash episode is next, which is the after the crash, we find out that the Admiral's still alive, because Anakin and Mace are like, well, let's look the wreckage through and find any survivors.
Oh, R2 Come Home is the name of that episode.
Yep.
That's why.
Yep.
That's why I got confused.
Yeah, and because that episode is the second part of that arc.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I always flip the arc around too in my head, and then I'm like, I rewatch it, and I'm like, oh, this episode happens first.
Yeah. So they go.
So they're looking for survivors, and the wreck crashes on them because it sets up explosives.
Boba sets up explosives again to kill Mace Windu.
Once again, almost works again.
Almost works. Anakin goes over and picks. He's like, "That's a Mandalorian helmet." Goes over, picks it up, and Mace is like, "Wait, no, don't touch that."
Yeah, specifically, it's the blue Django helmet. And so it's a in this case, once again, another tripwire situation because he lifts it and it explodes.
Yeah.
This one's like if we were to put a modern day equivalent, it'd be like the grenade hiding in the helmet, and then a string attached to the pull pin,
Yep.
attached to the helmet. So when you lift the helmet, it pulls the pin, and that's essentially what happened.
Yeah. And then Rebel.
Yeah, and so
Mace being like, "Hey, what's the deal with your droid?" And Anakin's like, "R2 is special."
Yeah, he's just good, and so R2 has to go get help. Meanwhile, and so has to distract the bounty hunters from finding Mace and Anakin at first, because there's no way he can get a signal out yet.
Yeah.
And Mace tells Anakin what's going on. He's like, "Okay, I think I know what's happening."
Yeah.
He's like, so remember that Django fat guy that I killed? He had a son." And Anakin's like, "Oh.
Oh. Shit."
And so they're stuck, and then so R2 manages to trick Boba because they're on the slave one trying to chase, because they think that Mace Windu got away because they see Mace's ship flying away when it's just R2 piloting it, and they're like, well, we got to kill him, and so they go chase him into space, and they see that he's going for the hyperspace rings.
Mm-hmm.
And since Anakin and Mace were out here, there's 2 hyperspace rings, and they're like, well, we got to take him out so he can't get away. And it's like, well, we can't shoot both. We don't have enough time.
So pick one.
And
hope it's a 50-50 shot.
And R2 manages to pull off the most insane, fake ever. Because he starts to go for the Anakin one. And then Boba's like, I got you now. Pulls a Darth Vader. Shoots at it. And R2 does a whoop. Alien roll into the Mace Windu one.
Yep.
And then immediately out of here.
Motherfucker.
And then that's when Casca's like, all right, I'm out. This job officially sucks.
Yep. He's like, the money is not worth it for this bullshit.
And so they R2 manages to bring Plo Koon and Ahsoka.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. Yeah.
Which they go to
more Plo Koon.
More Plo Koon. We get Plo Koon teaching Ahsoka how basic eavesdropping works.
Yeah, in the next episode, yeah. Because they save Mace and Anakin, then they find out that the bounty hunters took Admiral and a few clones as prisoner.
And so...
as bait, essentially.
Basically.
And Mace is like, I'm not getting involved. This is too personal, and I shouldn't get involved.
I'm also too injured to go do that right now.
And Anakin's like, but because it's personal, you should get involved. And Mace is like, nope, that's why I should not. And in fact, that's what they want. Mm-hmm. So we're not going to do that.
Yeah, and Plo Koon is like, don't worry, me and Ahsoka will handle it.
Yeah. And so they do, because and honestly, Ahsoka wasn't that bad. I call bullshit on Ahsoka getting caught on that eavesdropping, by the way. She was not doing that bad of a job that the guy who's not even looking at her saw her. I could understand if the pirate guy saw her, right? Because he was looking that direction.
Yeah.
But bro who wasn't even looking at her saw her. She just failed her stealth check. That's not on her. But before we get to that, so Aura and the crew go to Florum because Aura's like, I know Hondo.
Yep.
We're exes. He'll hole us up for a minute.
Aura, I don't need permission to do anything. Scene.
Yeah, he'll hole us up for a minute. And Hondo's like, I guess I will, but I'm not helping you or hurting you.
He's like, I'm staying out of this one.
He's like, I'm Switzerland on this one.
It's like, and a lot of his men, they in the bar are talking about
how crazy she is. They're like his
they're
crazy
like
ex.
every time she shows up, some bullshit happens.
And then like, so Casca goes to make a phone call because she's like,
Casca?
or
Castus.
Castus. Sorry, Castus goes to make a phone call because Aura's like, we're dropping you off here because this is where we're going anyway. So you're getting loaded off here. Figure out your own problem from here. And Castus is like, that's fine. I'll make a phone call. Makes a phone call to his buddy over on Coruscant. Is like, hey, I got some info, some juicy info that it's gonna make us some money. And then Aura's listening in, and she's like, that son of a bitch.
I gotta kill him.
And so she kills him. I think she would have killed him either way.
Yeah.
But he just sped up his death.
That one definitely accelerated it.
Yeah. I think she was gonna kill him either way. I think he was not leaving Florum. But yeah, that didn't help him. And so, but that's okay, because they kind of actually still needed the Jedi to figure out where they were anyway, so it kind of works for Aura's plan. Because she needed Mace to know where to go.
Yep.
And so, obviously, the buddy on Coruscant drinking some drinks and starts to talk to a Weequay pirate who apparently, I guess, works for Hondo, but happens to be on leave, I guess.
Yeah.
And because Plo and Ahsoka go to the bar, because Plo's like, we're not going to go where they last were, because why would we go where we know they're not? We got to go to the dive bars and start asking people for information, because they're the people. They're going to know what's going on. Because Plo's smart.
Yep.
Unfortunately, we see some of that tension of the Jedi in the lower city of Coruscant people, because the Jedi have not been helping with crime on Coruscant lately because of the war. So we start to see some of that early building of tension of the idea that the Jedi aren't really doing most of their usual duties for the galaxy, and how that's creating a tension with how the people view the Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that pays off much, much later.
Yeah.
But it's good to see the setup, the groundwork here. And so, Ahsoka manages, we talked about, she eavesdrops and gets busted eavesdropping.
Yeah. And eventually it's
and
like,
Plo and Ahsoka are like, you really want to take on 2 Jedi? They're like, you want to take on a full bar? And the bartender's like, whoa, nobody's shooting up in my joint. And Ahsoka's like, yeah, we're good. Payday.
Yep.
Throws credits.
Drinks on the house.
And Plo's like, oh man, you were so subtle, being sarcastic. I'm like, no,
that's a good move.
I'm so mad at Plo for that comment, because I think Ahsoka was doing her best.
That's a good move. I didn't know we were using the Assassin's Creed to just throw money onto the ground.
Hey, it's a good
trick. If you have the
if
money
you're in a
for
bar and you've got the money for it, people want drinks. They'd rather get the drinks and just move on than start a fight, you would think. So anyways, Ahsoka's like, well, hold on now. I got the information, though. And so they learn about Florum, and they go to...
Yeah.
And then we get a fight sequence where... We get a table fight sequence where Ahsoka or Plo and Aura sit at a table with Boba got a gun to the back of his head, and then Ahsoka sneaks up on Aura, cuts off her comm link from her head, so she can't call Bosk to kill the prisoners. Although Bosk is like, well, hey, I can't talk to her anymore, so if I don't hear soon, you're dead anyways. Even though she said she said to kill them if she said to. She didn't say if I don't say anything, which is like, Bosk, you.
Or it's operate under the assumption that something has gone wrong.
Yeah.
And just kill them regardless.
Yeah. But anyways, so they do a little table fight sequence where Aura has a little kick things in her shoe where she tries to... I guess they're like poison darts or something, because we see them go at Plo. Like, they shoot from the feet at Plo, but he manages to avoid them. I don't know what they were, but they were pretty cool.
They were cool. I don't know what the fuck they did.
Yeah. I mean, because we don't see them get to, hit anybody. They hit a wall.
Crazy how Aura resorted to Camino saber darts in her boots.
Camino saber darts. But yeah, so they
once again
get a fight. Aura runs away. Ahsoka chases her, Boba gets caught immediately because Plo's like, "I got you, kid. You ain't going nowhere." Boba asks Aura for help, and Aura once again proves she's a terrible person by going, "Nah,
Nope.
bye."
Later, loser.
Boba should have turned immediately. It took way too much to convince him to turn after that. He's like, "I'm still not telling." It's like, bro, she left you. You should tell immediately. Also, you don't want these people to die. You don't care about killing those guys.
Hondo being like, hey,
Your dad had honor.
your dad had honor. You should probably let them know.
Yeah. But yeah, because Aura is leading Ahsoka on a wild goose chase to lead away from the where the prisoners are. And so Boba does tell, because Boba is a good kid at heart.
Yeah.
And so
He's just like Inigo Montoya. He just wants to kill the man that killed his father.
Yeah. And so he does tell, and they save the day, and Aura gets away, because she like pulls some shenanigans.
Yeah.
And so that's it.
That the episode ends.
Oh yeah, with Boba arrested.
With Boba arrested, and May's coming over to talk to him, and Boba's being like, "I'm gonna hate you until the day you die. Every day, every morning."
Like, he practically could have spat on Mace, and it would have felt right for that conversation.
He's like, forever.
And Mace is like, "One day you'll get over it."
Do you think he got over it eventually? I think he did.
Maybe. I don't know. We even see in Book of Boba Fett he still has a problem with Jedi, though.
Well, there are a lot less of them now.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, that's the second season.
Yeah.
I'd say, what did we do? I said a 7 last time, I think, for season 1. This is definitely an improvement.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna give it an 8.
We're still getting that kind of out of sequence thing. We're getting episodes that aren't quite tying into the overall plot, but it's definitely an improvement. I agree on an 8. I think this is a
solid 8.
It's a solid 8. It's a solid good season. I still say, if you're gonna watch a show, watch from the beginning. Still watch the movie. Still watch the first season, because you do need those things for context. But I do think the second season is where it really starts to ramp up, and then the third season I think it's just gonna get better. I think the show just gets better and better. As far as that, I think that's it for our discussion.
Yeah. I'll say this. I was mad at you about halfway through this, because I'm like, I can't fucking believe he asked me to go and watch some shit we already know the events of. And then now, last night, like, once I got done with it, I'm like, that was a fun experience.
Well, it's also getting to recall, like, the thing specifics. Because, like, like I said, there was that moment where I was like, oh, I didn't notice that the first time with, like, the shapeshifter. Like, that's the little details that are fun to notice that you don't notice, or you don't remember noticing the first time.
Yeah.
And so, I think going back with a fresh mind on these things is good, which is why I'm making us go through them again. Yeah, because, like, we could just talk about the entire series and make it one episode, but where's the fun in that? So yeah, thank you all for watching today's episode of Escape Reality Star Wars Talk. I've been your host, Caleb. Be sure to like, comment, follow, subscribe to us. You can find us at Escape Reality Films on YouTube, Twitch, Kick, and TikTok. You can also show your support for us by joining our Patreon, which is at Escape Reality Films. Shout out to Jennifer Brantley.
Yo!
There you can watch our YouTube content before it's publicly available. Also, be sure to check out our Discord, which is also linked wherever you are watching, so you can become a part of our community. It's where we do fun events. Mondays has kind of become a hangout day lately between me, you, Pixie, and Zach, where we just play some First Ascendant and watch some Highlander at the moment. But if y'all want to come hang out still, we can figure out other things to do on Mondays. Thursdays have kind of a hangout night as well between me and Britt, where we take turns deciding what to do. This last Thursday we finished watching Smiling Friends. We meant to also watch some Tinkerbell movies. We did not. So we're gonna watch those we're gonna start watching those Tuesday. So we're gonna have a Tuesday hangout too this week. If you join the Discord, I put the events in. They're in the channel event, like they're in what do I call that channel? That channel. It's channel community schedule. So all the events are in the community schedule. They're also in like the event tab. I always put the events there, so that way everybody knows what's going on in the Discord. That's also where we play the D&D games that we play, so you can come listen live while we're playing them and hang out. We just ask you don't talk out of respect for the players during that. You can type in the chat and interact with us that way. We just don't want you talking over a player, out of respect. Let's see, anything else on that? You can also find me on Twitter at EscapeReality94 and Facebook, Instagram, and Threads at Caleb.Lockwood. Also, be sure to check out our friend Pixie on Twitch, Pixie Nixie. I will go ahead and give a shout out there. She was lurking earlier. She's who we play some games with. She also does her own variety streaming, some cozy games. I think right now she's trying to lock in on finishing Moonstone as one of her cozy games. And then she's also been playing some, what's it called? Once Human. That's also been a big game for her right now. And Fortnite. She plays some Fortnite too. So all the variety. So there's a mix. She was gonna stream today, but no stream today. Instead, she is doing a community event in her Discord. So if you go to her Discord, you can join that later tonight. I think it's they're doing some Jackbox. So I might show up because I don't have D&D tonight. I was gonna have D&D tonight, but I don't. So I might show up for that. But yeah, speaking of D&D though.
All right. You can catch some friends of ours over at the Steam_Dungeon on YouTube every Sunday from 5 to 7 Central Standard Time at Trials of Nebu. I'm not entirely sure what's going on. Check it out yourself. You might like it, you might not.
Yeah.
Still, I think it'll be worthwhile.
You saw a little meme that I posted earlier. Another reason to join Pixie's Discord server. There's some good memes. So yeah, once again, thank you all for watching. Join us next week as we continue our exploration of the Clone Wars with Season 3. We're going to Season 3 next week.
Alright.
Remember this time, we got 2 days in last week and he was like, what was I supposed to watch again?
Yeah. What the fuck am I doing?
We're doing Season 3 this time.
Okay.
I have spoken.
Y'all be safe out there.
Bye.